Chapter I. How Diana gave birth to ARADIA. Herodias. It is Diana. Lo. She rises crescented. Kratz and Endymion. Make more bright the star queen's crescent on her marriage night. Idid. This is the gospel of the witches. Diana greatly loved her brother Lucifer, the god of the sun and of the moon, the god of light, splendor, who was so proud of his beauty, and who for his pride was driven from paradise. Diana had by her brother a daughter, to whom they gave the name of ARADIA, that is, Herodias. In those days there were on earth many rich and many poor. The rich made slaves of the poor. In those days were many slaves who were cruelly treated. In every palace tortures. In every castle prisoners. Many slaves escaped. They fled to the country. Thus they became thieves and evil folk. Instead of sleeping by night, they plotted escape and robbed their masters, and then slew them. So they dwelt in the mountains and forests as robbers and assassins, all to avoid slavery. Diana said one day to her daughter ARADIA, "'Tis true indeed that thou a spirit art, but thou wert born but to become again a mortal. Thou must go to earth below to be a teacher unto women and men who fain would study witchcraft in thy school. Yet like Cain's daughter thou shalt never be, nor like the race who have become at last wicked and infamous from suffering, as are the Jews and wandering Zingari, who are all thieves and knaves. Like unto them ye shall not be. ARADIA, and thou shalt be the first of witches known, and thou shalt be the first of all the world, and thou shalt teach the art of poisoning those who are great lords of all. Yea, thou shalt make them die in their palaces, and thou shalt bind the oppressor's soul with power, and when ye find a peasant who is rich, then ye shall teach the witch, your pupil, how to ruin all his crops with tempests dire, with lightning and with thunder, terrible, and with the hail and wind, and when a priest shall do you injury by his benedictions, ye shall do to him double the harm, and do it in the name of me, Diana, Queen of witches all. And when the priests or the nobility shall say to you that you should put your faith in the Father, Son, and Mary, then reply, your God, the Father, and Maria are three devils, for the true God the Father is not yours. For I have come to sweep away the bad, the men of evil, all will I destroy. Ye who are poor suffer with hunger keen, and toil in wretchedness, and suffer too full oft imprisonment, yet with it all ye have a soul, and for your sufferings, ye shall be happy in the other world, but ill the fate of all who do ye wrong. Now when ARADIA had been taught to work all witchcraft, how to destroy the evil race of oppressors, she imparted it to her pupils and said unto them, when I shall have departed from this world, whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and when the moon is full, ye shall assemble in some desert place, or in a forest all together joined to adore the potent spirit of your queen, my mother, great Diana, she who fain would learn all sorcery yet has not won its deepest secrets. Then my mother will teach her, in truth all things as yet unknown, and ye shall all be freed from slavery, and so ye shall be free in everything. ARADIA, and as the sign that ye are truly free, ye shall be naked in your rights, both men and women also. This shall last until the last of your oppressors shall be dead, and ye shall make the game of Benevento extinguishing the lights, and after that shall hold your supper thus.
Alright, what the fuck is going on, everybody? You know who it is. It's Corey LeBlanc, of course. Always fucking here doing this shit for y'all. Giving you some info that I think is helpful for y'all. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but anyways. Hey, what's going on? Already recorded a couple things. Not much. And to be the truth be told, I don't even know what the fuck I'm gonna talk about. Cold as fuck today, man. Moving from a bunch of mild days to some fucking shitty weather. But anyways, let's just let the spirit of whoever and whatever will guide me. Full moon coming up, everybody. For me, it's at 2:30 something a.m. on Sunday, which is kind of like Saturday. Obviously, it's on Sunday, but what I mean is, if I don't stay up on Saturday night to do it, then I'm gonna have to, you know, set my clock to wake up at 2:30 in the morning. So what I do, this is helpful for anybody maybe, but if you want to do something and you don't know if you can stay up to that time, well, write it on a fucking candle. Get a big enough fucking candle, it's gonna last, right? And you know, you go, if you think 11 o'clock, your eyes are starting to close, shit, okay, gotta do my ritual, gotta get my candle ready now. So whatever the fuck you're asking the moon for, or whatever you're trying to change, hopefully it's something inside of you. But you know, we all need material possessions. We are in a material realm, so don't let anybody make you feel fucking bad about asking for money. Don't listen to all this horse shit that says you're not supposed to ask for money and this and that. Any spiritual motherfucking person telling you that This is a fake spiritual movement. If you're asking for money and trying to take care of yourself and your fucking family by, trying to fucking conjure, fucking spell cast for fucking cash or cars or houses, well then they're fucking the one that's not real or legit. Because how are you? First of all, I'm not pretending that there's no legitimacy to what they're saying, because in a certain sense, in all honesty, my opinion is this on that topic per se. Okay, I believe you should let your fucking heart, feelings, meditation guide you. Okay, I recommend the book that Frater recommended, Kabbalah, The Great Work of Self-Transformation, and following those guidelines and doing that curriculum. However, that being said, your body, your internal clock, your fucking guardian angels, your spirits around you, whatever you want to call it, your fucking, your subconscious mind, whatever, all of this, okay, is not going to just go along with the grades. So, same thing would happen if you start the grades and then you don't really continue with them. But let's say you keep doing your practice. Let's say you do the first fucking grade, but you don't even really finish it, and you just kind of do the pentagram ritual with middle pillar every day, and you just try to make stuff happen. Let's say that's as far as you got, okay? And you don't really talk about doing the grades, you don't really read any further, you just let it be, right? And maybe you're having success or not. Well, here's what's going to happen. Regardless of you following those grades or not, your body is going to go through the transformation process. I'm not one of those people that are going to say, hey, when you listen to me, it means you are one of these chosen few to be a magician and, you're going to transform by just listening to my shit. First of all, that's NLP techniques they're using in there to get you fucking hooked on what they're saying. The more you fucking talk something up and make somebody feel good about listening to you, the more likely they're going to listen to you and get likes. So that's mainly NLP. So I'm not going to fucking do that because I don't think that's right. Like I said before, I've studied a lot of NLP, and a lot of the shit I do and say and the words I use are already hypnotic fucking rhythm, fucking script, fucking conversational techniques, and I didn't even know I was doing it. But that being said, I'm not going to do extra to fucking trick people. However, the reason they get away with that shit, the reason they can say that shit is because that shit actually happens. But it has nothing to do with you watching their shit. Except for maybe a few books that I can recommend that are hypnosis books that kind of hypnotize you with language patterns while you read it intentionally, okay? Besides those, I'm pretty sure anybody saying that shit that while watching their shit you're going to be transformed or whatever. It's a simple variation, and it's a product of both. If you watch this shit enough times over and over and over again, it will reprogram your mind, such as like TV and other things too. It's as simple as that. Not only that, but eventually, if you go down this path and you're serious about it, your subconscious mind, especially if you're taking on deities and, following different gods and goddesses and, showing a belief in them and shit like that. So your subconscious mind takes on those characteristics and you're meditating, shit like that. If you're doing all this, then your mind knows what to do. So as soon as you show enough fucking, what the fuck is the word to use here? Not like obedience, not, it's a word for devotion, I guess is the best word. As long as you show devotion to self-transformation without, like this complete and total arrogant, egocentric, if you're doing it for, it's okay to ask for money if you're doing it for your family, if you're trying to get yourself out of poverty and shit like that. If you want money to fucking hurt somebody else, then, you're going to take on that bad guy persona and your mind's not going to let you be the bad guy. You might justify it some way to your conscious mind and think your you think your subconscious might get it, but at the end, your subconscious is going to do the final ruling on it, and if any way, shape, or form it thinks you're going to be the bad guy, then your magic's not going to work. But what I'm trying to say is if you're asking for money, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody's saying that there's something wrong with asking for money is either still fucked up in the Christian fucking programming or part of it and just pretending to be witches and shit and trying to bring people down and not ask for their own shit. Yeah, you're part of a spiritual movement where we all have to transform on the inside and out and try to break down our current situation and structures and system, and yet you're going to tell people to not try to make money for themselves using fucking magic? and say it's supposed to be for the greater good. Well, then why don't you go join a congregation and go to fucking church on Sunday? Because that's what they fucking preach, you fake fucking spiritual fucking guru fucking faking ass asshole. Like, I mean, fuck off with that shit. Point is, don't buy into this asking for money for yourself is bad shit, because it's not. You're going to get your own lessons from what you're asking for. If you're being guided to go for that, then you're going to get it. However, I played this in Epiphany Lectures a long time ago. He said, if you ask for money, but you don't really need the money, and you have this reservation against it, and you may not really think you deserve it or whatever, then you're not going to get it. That's basically what I just fucking said. And if maybe you do need that money, and you want that money, and then you watch shit that tells you that, you know, you shouldn't be asking for money. Anybody asking for money is really of the devil, or it's evil spirits working out through you and shit like that. Well, you're fucking up your own magic. Turn that shit off. You don't have to hate the person saying it, because they might be saying it from a genuine place. You don't have to hate the fucking channel, because they might be doing it because, you know, maybe they learned a hard lesson from it. Maybe they can't ask for money. But just like veganism versus eating meat, everybody is different, and no one should be telling anybody what to do. I don't eat meat, but that's a personal choice. And it seems to work with my physiology, biology, and body. However, I've proven it, I've played it. People like Peterson and his daughter were cured from immune disease, depression, and fucking 100 other things by only eating meat. Because their body needs that in it for whatever fucking reason. Who knows? Maybe it's purely genetic and depends on what your ancestors ate before you and made your organs out of, and what your cells are making shit out of. Maybe it depends on what you believe. I don't know. Point is, I'm never going to tell people they shouldn't eat fucking meat. At the least, I try to tell people maybe to cut back on it, because animals are dying, and more animals than ever are dying to feed us. So, you know, you would think with all this big veganism shit's going to start to change, but to me, and places I look, the numbers aren't getting any better. And obviously, you know, places like Australia, and the fires don't fucking help, obviously, because, you know, animals are dying there, and it's not even because we're eating them. So that should kind of maybe, you know, one day a week, you know, instead of having lunch meat for your kids, you give them crackers and cheese, or you make eggs or something. And then, I mean, eggs are still of an animal, yes, but, you know, pros and cons. Like, the vegetarians and vegans that go so far as say no fucking eggs and cheese. Well, okay, but if someone's trying to switch from meat to fucking that shit, and you're not letting them have that shit, it's gonna be a fucking hard transition. Plus, I know it's wrong, but it's righter than the other wrong. So to me, yes, there's shades of gray, and less worse is better than completely bad. So, you know, do eggs and cheese and shit, do the protein if you're not, you know, doing the chia seed thing, and getting your protein from powders and seeds, which I completely advocate for and think it's phenomenal. You're not getting any of the fat, the sugar, or anything bad that you might think is bad for your body, or has been proven to be bad for your body that is, or has been proven for your body that is. I mean, those are the three fucking dimensions for that shit, so be careful. Point is, yeah, going the powder seed route for fucking protein and amino acids and everything else you can use is phenomenal. Because you shrink your stomach to the point where you don't need to eat much anymore, and you can get filled up on like a fucking handful of grapes and some fucking juice, you know, with the fucking you fucking put a bunch of fruits that you don't really like, but you want the benefits from, and a juicer with some fruits that you like, so it tastes good, and you know, some other shit. Who cares about it? I throw ice cream in that bitch. I don't give a fuck. I want to eat this shit. I got all this good shit in there. Ice cream's not gonna make the good shit go bad. It's just gonna add a little bit of bad shit to my diet. But if I'm mostly eating good shit, then I can afford to eat bad shit. But anyways, this is not supposed to be about dieting and all that. I really just wanted to emphasize, because I listen to these people, they're going through these transformations on YouTube, and you can tell the difference in them, and you can tell where they are on their stage of their transformation by the information they say, and it's a beautiful thing, it's amazing. But then when they start going on their program bullshit about being spiritual means you have to shun money again, which is of the Bible, which is so stupid. The Bible is not stupid. The Bible is a useful book if it's not being taught by fake motherfuckers in fucking black fucking wearing robes with little white collars, motherfucking shit. And God, can't stand it anymore. It's so hard to take. And I'm never going to tell anybody that I have the way, or what I'm preaching is the ultimate way, or what anybody should do, because it's not. No one has the one fucking way. Everybody has their way within them, and they have to unlock that shit. And our age is better than any other age for being able to find a system to help you unlock that shit. But don't focus solely on the system and forget your inner transformation. The shit has to come from you for what you need to do, not from the system. The book Kabbalah, the great work of self-transformation, focuses on different techniques and things, rituals that you can do to unlock the hidden wisdom from within your own body. Okay? That's why, to me, it's a good book. Initiation into Hermetics is another great one that, he doesn't even use candles and very much spell work and shit like that, even though motherfucker who made the book was a powerful motherfucking magician who, quote unquote, and I can't tell you if it's true or not, but apparently was held captive by fucking Hitler because Hitler knew Franz Barton apparently was kidnapped by Hitler because Hitler and his goons knew he knew magic. And even though the other guys that were there held captive with him, his other friends that were learning under him or whatever the case may be, okay, they were learning under him, and they tried to use magic with the guards to leave him alone, which was almost successful. But Franz Barton never once revealed any secrets to them because he didn't want that shit in their hands. Now, take that for what it is. I hear that from right-leaning fucking Christian, faking, spiritual people, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you the Leak Project is a fake Christian thing because that's the first place I heard them talking about that. But I get these strong inclinations that, and I love the guy, and he's great, and he really, in some ways, he helps a lot of people come to spirituality. He thinks that, and I don't know if he's trying to do the opposite or not, so, that's up to you to believe, but there's a lot of people that say they're fucking true, they're out to get the truth, but really, they want the truth from a Christian angle and view, telling you can still be a Christian and do magic, but not to do magic for yourself, or to get what you want, and do it for the greater good of people, and, fuck that shit. Do it for yourself. Because the only way you're going to help other people is if you first help your fucking self. You can't help a fucking single person if you're just another fucking sheep among many fucking sheep praying for the greater fucking good and never changing a damn thing. Because you can't know what the greater fucking good is if you aren't a type of version of the greater good. This greater good everybody wants the world to be. Everybody has a fucking opinion about how the world should be and what New Earth is and this and that. Yet, their life is in chaos and they can't fucking conjure a fucking damn thing because they don't have their two minds connected. They haven't challenged, which to me is a good word to use, they haven't challenged their dark side and won that battle against their own dark side. How the fuck, if they became in some position of power and were offered corruption, these people that haven't challenged their dark side and won, they're going to take corruption every fucking time. So don't listen to their horseshit telling you to not go for money. They don't trust themselves. That's why they tell you to not cast for money, because they're still in scarcity and lack, and they think that if you cast for money and you get it, you're going to be a greedy a-hole and not leave them any fucking money. So out of pure scarcity and fear are they telling you to not do money magic for yourself to help your family. They want you to help your family, but not at fucking the chance that you might take all the money there is in the world and they don't get any. When people are truly in abundance, like I tend to believe that I'm in abundance because I don't give two fucks if everyone around me conjures up $1 million, $1 trillion, $1 billion right now. It wouldn't mean two fucks. I would be happy for everyone if they got what they wanted. But at the same time, I know that if everybody in the world, whether it's the sheep or the enlightened, if everybody in the world received what they wanted right now, today, tomorrow, whatever day, pick a day, and everybody in the world gets what they want, I know that it's never going to be enough, because it isn't. I've gotten the fucking 10 grand. I've gotten the healing. I've gotten all these fucking things I've asked for. And I still need more. I still need to ask for this. I still need to ask for that. Why? Because that's our realm. This where we are. The point of it is not to learn magic and use magic to get what you want. However, that is a hack that you should use while you're figuring out what the fuck you need to do here. Because it makes your life a lot easier. You can go to work, make that money, pay your bills with that money. And then, maybe you start down the magical path and you get a little lost for a while, but then out of it, you find a couple passions and hobbies that you do that make living worthwhile, that you wake up happy to do that, you know? Maybe you find somebody who either likes those or allows you to do that and takes care of the bills and takes on half the responsibility, so you have less of a load and you can do those things, and maybe you do them together or whatever the case is, and while you're trying to figure this shit out. And then maybe you start making money off of that, maybe you don't, and maybe you just work a job that you can stand because you kind of do something you like, and then, you know, on the side you do something you really like enjoying, like a hobby, and then you use magic to make up the difference of the extra money you need so you can continue to do your hobby, and your kids can go to school and do whatever you need to do. And then, all meanwhile you're doing this, you're trying to figure out what this fucking shit is about. What are we here for? Why are we alive? Why do we live just to die? Why are we here for? I'm telling you right now, the answer is not to learn magic. To me, right now, it's all about evolution. We are here to evolve the species. We are here to try to find out, you know, it's all great and dandy to find out where you come from. And believe me, I still, at least probably one day a week, look into history-bound stuff. All right, I need to have a straight up schedule on what, and I mean, I can alter my schedule, but the shit I research and look at in between magical operations over again with never truly want to fucking find. You know what I mean? Therefore, this is just what I do. Everybody's different, so I don't have the one pure only fucking way. So don't think I'm saying that. But, you know, and you can even do this to go along with the gods if you want. You know, Monday is moon and water. You want to learn about the element of water, anything that has to do with women religion or feminists or, you know, the history of women, whatever, you know. And then Tuesday's Mars, passion, man, you know, warriors. When you want to learn about the Christian religion, Aries, God, astrology, I don't know. But that's what I do. I'm not going to tell you my specific schedule because I don't have one. It changes from week to week. But anytime I start looking at something and I start feeling like, okay, I'm going all over the place. Okay, well, I make my schedule for the fucking week. All right? So today, I'm going to learn about astrology. Tomorrow, I'm going to learn about, you know, original Christian, what happened before Christian. Then it's going to be, you know, maybe some pagan studies, witchcraft. Then I'll do back to ceremonial magic, origins, or whatever, history of the world. Maybe I'll, you know, it doesn't matter. I'll learn about channeling, spiritism, third eye, how to do this. Maybe I'll read the science of breath again and see what I do. You know what I mean? I every day of the week I have something different I'm going to look at. So my aim stays direct on whatever the fuck I need to look at. And anytime I start sliding off, and like I said, this varies because if I start on one topic and realize that I need to go a little further into a specific topic, but it wasn't supposed to be for that day, but I'm really into it, well then I change it. I swap it out with another day of the week. The thing I'm supposed to learn, I change it to the day of the week that, you know, closely resembles whatever the fuck I'm looking at now that I want to learn about. Anyways, but this could help you if you really want to be helped. If you have trouble staying focused on task and learning about simply one fucking thing at a time. But the main thing I'm trying to say here, I guess, is don't buy into that bullshit about spirituality and, you know, trying to take care of yourself and your family for money, shit like that, and thinking it's bad. Because you can do it. And if it wasn't possible, I guess I can't really say, you know, you wouldn't be able to do it if it was bad, because you can do bad things. So that's bullshit. But how am I going to put this? Everything you do for yourself, everything you're going to conjure up, whether it's fucking money or a lover or whatever the case is. Because I've never done love magic. I've never tried to get a partner or anything like that, because I already have my partner and I'm loyal to my partner. And until that either changes or, you know, which I don't think it is, because I'll talk about her in a little bit, but she's going through her own little transformation right now in nihilistic depression, dark night of the soul fucking shit. And God, it breaks my heart to see her going through it, because she's not spiritual and she doesn't know why. You know, going to the doctor and see what the fuck's wrong with her, go to a psychologist, a counselor, talk about it, which is great, which is probably the best thing anybody who's not in spiritual shit can do. Instead of going to the doctor and getting pills for a bunch of shit they can't diagnose, ascension symptoms, I guess, if you will. Not to use a fucking new age term, because I don't think there's anything wrong with the new age, only when it starts leaning and being directed by Christian or... because both, okay? And I'm not... left and right sides manipulate and steer new age, okay? Because you can go on there and hear a bunch of Christian spirituality from a new age channels such as Higher Self. Not all the videos are But there are some where you can really tell, okay, this has been manipulated by Christian right-leaning people. Then you can go on and you can see things that are way to the left. Whether you want to think that's satanic, demonic, Luciferian, I don't care. To me, Satan, Lucifer are not who you think they are. If anything, the Bible, to me, and I can back this up with another fellow Canadian who's actually been on like CTV News and made books about it, but his thesis, his theory is, you probably know him, I can't think of his name, but his theory is Satan, that is referred to in the Bible, is really man, is us. The beast, 666. There's 6 fucking protons, neutrons, whatever, that are in our body, okay? That's us, man. We are the beast, Satan, the devil. But we are also God. But anyways, the point is, even in the Bible, if you go to the older translations, okay, Satan, where it says it in there, just means adversary. And God himself, and this is whether you want to believe the Sophia stories, the Gnostics made that being who is God of the Bible, which was abomination, you know, whoever made him kind of pieced out, like, oh fuck, we done fucked up, let's leave these humans to figure this shit on their own. But anyways, him, the God of the Bible, says he sent, like in the book of Job, which is, you know, to me would be Jupiter, but anyways, he's so nice, and then he's so great, so God's just giving him shit over and over again, and there's this being that shows up in heaven, like, are you really gonna give this motherfucker all this shit? Like, how can he be that good? And you know what? And so, and this is the way it's translated now, is that the devil and God, you know, the devil's like, you know what, I bet you I can make him fucking bad. I can tempt him into doing something bad. God's like, go for it. Let's see if he does it. Alright, that's how it's translated now. Which should, even with them trying to manipulate you and tell you that there is a devil and make this devil being real and Satan being real, still should tell you something. The fact that their translation says God and the devil are chilling together, having a good old conversation, not killing each other, not fighting over the souls, none of that shit. They're just chilling, having a bet, rolling the dice. Let's see what this motherfucker's gonna do. God doesn't give a shit that the devil's gonna torture him, put him through hell, torment him, and, you know, just to test the motherfucker. Clearly he's already a nice guy because God's already given him so many shits, all this crap. Yet he's gonna make him go through even more just to prove to the devil at the sake of this person, you know. So that's their translation. But the point I want you to get from their translation is that God and the devil are buddies. They're chilling up there, and obviously the devil wasn't cast down to hell to stay in hell. He's able to go to heaven and just chill with God. So, but in the original translation, it's something to the effect of Yahweh sent an adversary to test Job, which is basically the same thing, because if Yahweh created fucking the devil, then by the devil coming up and saying all this to Yahweh, and Yahweh allowing him, because he can do anything, he could fucking tell him to not go there, stop him from going there, and the like. So the point I'm trying to make is, either translation, Yahweh sent the devil to Job to fucking be his adversary and test the motherfucker. So Satan means adversary. There is no Satan. Okay? The tests that Job got were the tests from his subconscious mind, the tests from life, the trials and tribulations that we have to go through with life in fucking general. And that's what we do. And when you do your self-transformation, the point is to not become nihilistic and depressed and become the victim. And it's to transcend and empower oneself after you go through these shitty fucking times. That's what the point of this is. That's what we're trying to do. And it ain't fucking easy. But if it was easy, everybody would do it. So anyways, seeing my wife going through these ascension symptoms and shit like that, it's really stopped me from recording. Recording a lot. Because it's hard to see her going through it, but she doesn't know what's going on. And I think she's got inclinations, and I try playing things that'll help her that I've already listened to, mainly from the Higher Self channel on how to deal with ascension symptoms and shit like that. But, you know, she wants to get the pleasure from watching TV and the pleasure from, you know, playing games on her phone, to the point where she's trying new games over and over again, and, you know, things like that, trying different foods, doing different things. You know, we're having sex more than ever because that's the only thing that seems to continuously satisfy her. that she still gets pleasure from is sex. And last night I fucking couldn't even fuck her anymore because I already fucked her so much that I had to eat her out. And I did a hell of a job, might I add. But point is, you know, that's one thing that continuously can satisfy us, that we continuously need. It's kind of like back to the main point I said at the beginning, where it's when you get what you want, you still need to keep getting it. Nothing is a fucking one and done. You can think, well, when I reach this, when I get this, when I have him, when I get her, when we get married, when we have the house, when we have the cars, when we have perfect health, when we realize immortality, we never die, when we fix the planet, whatever it is. When we get to this plateau, when we get all these things off our bucket list, when we reach these milestones, everything's going to be okay. And we'll just live happily ever after like the movies. No! Movies have sequels because they're not one and done. Yes, the character has to travel, go over all these harsh things to become the hero once again and reclaim and have his hero belt, so to speak. But then you continuously have to defend your title against people that want it, against the bad, the demonic, the spirits, the malevolence, and maybe even your own bad fucking words and curses sometimes. But even in the stories, even in the books, these things are secular. So anyways, sex follows those same rules. You can have sex, and sex is great, it feels great. You got released, you know, and maybe even for a whole day, you're okay without having sex again, thinking about sex, which I highly doubt. But anyways, let's just pretend that's true. Then the next day you need it again, or you want it again. You start thinking about it, you start chasing it, whether it's with your wife, your husband, or you're single and you're going after a new girl. You know, sometimes if you don't have sex in a relationship, then you do, for some men and women, it can ruin the relationship. And not necessarily even about the sex being bad, which, you know, can be the reason. You know, if you're only mildly attracted to somebody and then the sex is bad, it's a good reason to not be with that somebody. But if you, before sex, build a relationship, talk with them, you know, have a good time, realize you have more than just this animal nature to it, and then you have sex, well, in my experience, 9 times out of 10, for one, the sex is way better because you're both into it and you both want to impress the other one because you want the sex to be a tool to keep that person with you and not a reason to leave you. Because just like if the sex is bad, there's a reason to leave. Well, if you don't have all the other good shit before the sex, that's not there. It's also a reason to leave. If all you have is good sex, nothing else, then it's not a reason to stay with somebody. And if you only have all that other good shit where you like hanging out, being friends, get along well, you can sit up all night talking, but then, you know, you go to fuck your man can't last 2 seconds. Or he doesn't know what he's doing, or whatever the case is. Well, that's not a reason to stay with him either. It's a good reason to have him as a friend, not a reason to stay with him. So, if you have this relationship, you know, then you're going to do what it takes to please that girl. I know I have. I read the books about how to satisfy the woman, stimulating the clitoris while penetrating her fucking deep, which is something, you know, Russell Brand says on Forgetting Sarah Marshall, I think it is. So, you know, this shit's rated in movies, you don't even have to read the books, but you want to go more in depth in how to hold back and how you need to clench your ass cheeks the right way to hold back your cum and shit like that. Well, read the books. I mean, I can tell you my version of it, but there's books out there that'll help you. And I done all that because I wanted to please my wife. I wanted to make her fucking toes curl in the best way. I wanted to make her fucking vibrate the way she does whenever we're done. And she looks at me and, you know, she wants to cuddle right after and all that because she wants to keep feeling that, you know, security and safeness. You know, she doesn't want to feel like a fucker and I leave. But the point is, I wanted to make her feel like that. It was important to me. And it's still important to me to do that every time. Sometimes she doesn't understand why I don't want to sleep with her. It's not that I don't want to sleep with her, but I know mentally, physically, and, you know, maybe even, especially, this is mostly true in the past, if I was doing any kind of drugs, drinking, whatever the case is. I'm more prone to have sex with her when I'm drinking. I was less prone to have sex with her when I was doing speed or coke. You're going to say, well, speed or coke make you horny and want to fuck. Yes, but if you can't get it up, it's really disappointing to somebody who really wants to fuck. You know, and I would play along and try to get it up, which would get her even more aroused just for her not to be aroused. Does this is why I always, use my tongue after, because I felt bad. So, but point is, and I had to learn how to do that properly, make sure I fucking do it to the point where it's almost just as good, if not better, than us having intercourse. But point is, I wanted to do that. If you don't have somebody that you're willing to learn all that, and you don't care, and you're just in and out, let's go. That ain't love. And I'm not gonna pass on this bullshit about soulmates and shit like that, even though I call my wife my soulmate, and I think on one level she is. Twin flame, soulmate, tribe, fucking whatever. She is that to me, which is why it's so hard to see her going through this shit. I want to help her, but the only person that can help her is herself. She has to figure this out. And it doesn't even have to be spiritual. To me, magic, spiritual, new age is the fastest way to figure out what's wrong with you, and the best way to not go to the hospital and get a bunch of pills and shit like that to try to get rid of the symptoms. However, that's not for everybody. Some people just can't listen to that and be on board with that. It's not made for everybody. There are other ways to go about this. A fucking yoga class would do her wonders, and she wouldn't have to say a word. She wouldn't have to listen to some bullshit. Nothing. If she was to move her body, stretch it out, whatever, and do the breathing techniques and focus solely on that, it would relieve 90% of these ascension symptoms. And she would only have 10% of them still going on when she comes home after. But compared to the 100% she had before this, that would be so manageable. It would be unbelievable. And that's why yoga is one of the most popular things. That's why yoga keeps getting more and more popular. Studios popping up everywhere, because people are having these feelings and symptoms, and they don't want to go get a pill shot at them and numbing this shit. So they've realized that working this shit out with breathing, different gestures, because yoga hits all these secret fucking hand movements, body movements that do amazing things for your body that we don't even understand how it's possible yet, but yet work. And that's the reason why it's working. You can say it's bullshit, this and that, but man, it's powerful stuff. I got rid of my sciatic nerve, my pinched sciatic nerve with yoga, with stretching. I chalk it up to stretching for most people, because when I say yoga, they just kind of roll their eyes and shit like that. So I say stretching, and I tell them the stretches they can do. But I'm telling you, it had more to do than just the fucking stretching and relieving the muscle pushing against my sciatic nerve, which is basically my glute. Because I'm sitting right on that bitch right now, and I haven't done any stretches today. I haven't done any stretches in a long fucking time, which is something I should do. But if my sciatic nerve was pinched, and then apparently there's only surgeries and pain pills for that shit, the doctor route, then how the fuck can I be sitting on my sciatic nerve now without any pain at all? And just doing yoga for 3 months straight relieve that? Are you kidding me? Come on, it's more than that. It was me wanting to get rid of it. It was me believing that this would get rid of it. That got rid of it. And it helps that I don't put a wallet in my back pocket and sit on it, because that was the original assessment, was that I'm sitting on my wallet going up to Belleville, Pembroke, 6-hour rides, there and back. Running smoke, sitting on a wallet the whole fucking time. Well, that's not going to be any good. Sitting alone could cause this. Sitting on a hard concrete slab or something. But the fact that you have a wallet there and extra something in between you and the chair, not just your ass cheek, was problematic. So yeah, I don't put anything back in my back pocket like that. I do from time to time like lighters and cards and shit like that. But they just kind of slide in my ass, cheek, fat, and that's fine. But anyways, the wallet is made to not bend or break your cards and money, so it's a harder surface. Therefore, it's made to withstand your ass bending or breaking it, and that means it's subjugated. Wow, I can actually feel the nerve like pulsating right now on my left cheek. Damn it, that's fucked up. But anyways, oh wow, I don't know how I got there, but yeah, so wife is going through these ascension symptoms, and she loves her job, she loves being at her job, but yet she can't stand being there right now. She doesn't even want to be there today. She went in for overtime, but she didn't go to work yesterday, and she left early the day before, and she left early another day this week, all because she's having trouble being there. And it's not that she doesn't want to be there. She wants so badly to want what she wanted before, to be fulfilled by her fucking job, to be fulfilled by her TV shows. But none of it is fulfilling her anymore. We went shopping the other day, and we bought some things, and she was excited about the fact that 90% off of this self-blowing up air mattress with a pump built into it. It was like $100 and some. We got it for like $18. is amazing. And it's huge. It's like bigger than my real queen bed. And it sits just as high. It's like 3 feet off the ground. And, you know, she had a little bit of excitement about that. But it was nowhere near the excitement of when she normally shops. And, you know, when I asked her, well, where do you want to go now? She didn't want to go anywhere. It doesn't matter. It's not going to, no, I just go home. And then she laid down and played with the baby. Tried playing a game, couldn't. And she was actually happy when she was playing with the baby a little bit. She played with the baby a lot more. She was actually getting a little bit more joy out of doing that. But you can just tell she's going through this time. This is somebody that only listens to my spiritual crap because I put it on in the background. She's forced to, so her subconscious mind's hearing it all the time, but she's not necessarily hearing it ego or consciously, sorry. But, you know, I want to help her, but I can't. And it's a little hard to see her going through this because she's already went through so much, you know. To me, it's like, fuck, man. She's earned everything she's got the hard way, this and that. For her to have to go through this ascension crap, too. But it tells me she's worthy. And, you know, whatever created us or whatever beings are governing us that want us to ascend or whatever the case is. Let's say ascension and evolution, like I said prior in the beginning, is what we're supposed to be here for, is what we're supposed to do. Okay, let's just pretend that theory is accurate. Well, if that theory is accurate, then anybody who's done and gone through things like my wife, like I've went over recently, all the bad shit in her life and put herself on hold to help her children, whatever. And now it's her time to get what she wants. Well, she's gotten what she wanted. She got the house, she's got the car, she got the wedding, beautiful, you know. Well, yeah, we did it cheap, but it still cost us 20 grand. We went on our honeymoon, we vacation, you know, we have cars, we have houses, we have credits, we can do renovations, you know. She's got everything she thought she wanted, yet she's not fulfilled. She's coming to realization that, okay, I was sold this dream of I need a house, I need a car, I need a man, I need the wedding, I need a good job. And she got all that shit. And now she's at the realization that she has to spend the next 35 years in this job to maintain it until she gets to retire. Whether she maintains this or not, and we just go back to renting, is irrelevant. She still has to work this job for the next 35, well, actually for her, it's more like 40 fucking years because she's 31. So 69 years, or sorry, 69, 39 years until she gets to retire, something thereabouts. That's a hard fucking pill to swallow, man. Sorry, my math is wrong. 34 years for her. I'm 33, so it's 32 years for me. Well, this year I turned 34, so 31 years for me after this year. That we have to work these jobs until we're able to retire. Or we can save and retire early. Which will give your job meaning. Will make you want to work overtime. Will give you a reason to be there. If you... Right now, you can complain and watch YouTube every day and think we need to ascend and this and that, and that's great. And you can try to think that, you know, eventually one of these days some big catastrophe is going to happen and then everything's going to get bad and then other people are going to come along and fix the world, basically, so to speak. And then you won't have to work your job. Well, that's great. But what if that doesn't happen? Then you literally have to stay on welfare your whole life to enjoy it and not work, or work a job you fucking hate your whole life, which is probably one of the same. And then, you know, at 65, finally get to retire. At least if you worked a job, you'll have something in there. And if you save, you can maybe do it at 55, maybe even 45. But once again, this is just to prove that what Peterson says is true. You can bargain with the future. You can put money aside to have a better future. But you have to put in the sacrifice right now. And my wife's done that in so many other ways. To see her go through this seems shitty. But the same sense, it tells me she's worthy of it. Because if you're not ready and worthy and are still doing bad things and haven't learned lessons from it, or, you know, still think God is the way and shit like that, and, you know, then you're not ready to ascend. You're never gonna fucking ascend. Nothing good is gonna happen to you, and only people worthy of ascension and transformation get it. And, you know, that's truly my belief. And I'm not saying that I was worthy before my wife, because that's not the case. Because just because I hit it first in a linear time fashion, I didn't hit it when I was 31. For me, it was 3 years ago. No, well, 31 sounds about right, actually. But I think this is like more of a, I don't know. Anyways, point is, she's still hitting it first if you go by age. Being that I'm born in May, she was born in January. But anyways, it's pretty close actually. So that's something to really think through. Maybe 31's the magic year, and then when you get to 33, where I am right now, about to go change to 34, things start getting a little easier. I don't know. This is my experience, and hopefully it helps you on your path, but this is all I'm saying. This is my experience. But anyways, kind of want to talk about that today. I want to talk about evolution and how to make evolution possible and why so many people are left behind. And it has to do with language. And language is one of my favorite fucking things to study. And I don't know why. Well, obviously, if you listen to me for any length of time, you know by now that I have an opinion about everything. And if I say I don't know why, I really do know why. And I'm going to basically tell you. But language is interesting to me because everything I think is formed on it. And I've always studied etymology because there's this program out there, and it's within the magical community that words have been programmed against us to do us harm. Which is true. There are many words that, but that's the base level entry of words. See, within language, you have your own hierarchy, so to speak, of holy fuck, man. Sorry, I keep yawning. You have your own hierarchy of ascension, chakra, fucking steps you got to go through. So when you first get into language, and you're learning about language and how to use language magically or how it's been used against us, you have your whole fear-based stage where you're learning about the fact that word is wrong, law has its own Bible, has its own dictionary that is used against us to fuck us up, so that we have to pay for lawyers to learn our language and shit like that. Then you learn that in school. We learn how to do spells. That's why it's called spelling. You cast a spelling bee. We're casting spells. Grimoire, signature. It's called cursive. You're writing in cursive writing. To tell a curse word, it means you're cursing somebody. That's your base level. Once you get past there, you move up the ascension ladder. It's basically, I wouldn't say maybe necessarily 7 steps to it, even though if I thought about it, there's probably 7 steps to it. But you basically learn that you go from learning language is used against you to, which I think is true, to how to use language to help you, protect you, and use for your benefit, to bring things into your reality. Therefore, you can stay on the fear wagon of people are fucking us over using language, tricking us, or you can just redefine the words you use mostly and make up your own new words and just use your language to protect you, inoculate yourself from any bad words, do spells and sigils to protect you from anything that has any meaning that you have no idea about, that you only use the meaning that you know and not the collective consciousness meaning, like to sit there and be in victim mode when you know magic is just stupid. Straight up. If you're going to play, I'm the victim to society, and you are in the initiation and learning the holy science of fucking astrology and magic, are you fucking kidding me? Get the fuck off my podcast if that's you. If you're going to play the fucking victim in any aspect of your life when you're going through the initiation and transformation process, go somewhere else. Go watch these fake truthers and fake spiritualities that are Christian based, and go run to the pastor. Okay? Because you can do anything. That's what you're learning. You're limitless. If you can think it, you can see it, you can fucking do it. And whether you believe that or not is irrelevant. Put it to the fucking test. Make a fucking sigil saying you are protected from any double meanings or collective consciousness meanings that were attributed to any words that have harmful definitions that you don't know about. I will be harm-free, so fucking mote it fucking be. Simple as that. Come on. Put your shit to the test. Make a fucking 100 sigils for every different way you can word this. And you are protected from it. If you believe you're protected from it, then you're protected from it. There's nothing higher than the power of your own mind. So you can go around and let other people, spiritual people, tell you that people are tricking you and that there's these hidden things that you don't know about. And even right now within your mind, there's a program running that you can't stop because you don't know it, you can't name it, you can't change it. And that's what they're doing to you. They're putting that in your mind as you're speaking it. And your mind can do anything and take anything out. The one thing I don't like about the Napoleon Hill book, where the devil says he can have someone in hypnotic rhythm so bad that they can't get out of it. And that's bullshit. Everybody can get out of it, and everybody will get out of it. But it takes time, because evil doesn't win, because there is no evil, first of all. But everybody is from the same source. Every creation story that's got an evil element to it is just the representation of the negative polarity and the negative gender within us. Sometimes represented as female or snake or evil or devil. But it's none of those. Okay? We need both those polarities for life, for creation, for all this to be possible. When I told my wife yesterday, because I took the day off, small little shitty example before I got to go get my pills and shit. But she wanted me to stay home with her because she was staying home. So I asked my boss, told him, no one's sick, no one's hurt. I'm not going to lie to you. Just want the day off. Celebrate Valentine's Day a week before, because we might not get a sitter on Valentine's Day. And, my wife is going through something right now. I don't really know what, but I want to find out. No problem, Corey. We'll sign the paperwork on Monday. Bar none. First, before I go any further, I got to give a shout out to my boss, Vince. I know he doesn't listen to this. God, I hope he doesn't listen to this. But, my God, has there ever been a nicer fucking guy boss in the world? It's him. Now, that can bite him in the ass in other places, being a supervisor and a manager. But for all of my intents and purposes right now, I've got nothing but love and respect and adoration for that man. And I got his back if he needs it, especially when it comes to other people at work and shit like that. But, and bar none, the best job I've ever had. And, when it comes to leniency, work-wise, approachability, workability, adaptability. I'm on shift work, so that sucks, but everything else is pretty damn good about the job. From the actual work I do to, being there, shit like that. So, like, when I'm late and miss time, it literally has nothing to do with the fact that I hate my job or I don't want to work. And it has everything to do that my life is so disorganized and structured and all about the kids and putting them first, that when I finally have my own time, which is working, by the way, which sucks because, we have to live, we need money. But when it comes to that, I'm so unorganized and don't know what to do that I'm always late for things. And not only that, it's just so tired and worn out, it's hard to fucking get anywhere on time. And the fact that that never happens or barely happens to my wife is beyond me. But anyways, I love my job and it's great. But so anyways, but she wanted me to have the day off to stay with her because she's having that hard time going through this ascension shit. But so I asked my boss and he tells me yes. But for her, I'm like, okay, babe. So I read what I sent him and all that. And she said, oh, yeah, what did he say? I'm like, well, unfortunately, he's already have enough people that aren't going in today because he let them off. And, there's only one guy going in. And because we deal with stuff and, the reason we like having two people there at one time is not only so someone else works there, but in case something happens to the one person, there's somebody else there to do something, right? Which is just something that came up at the top of my head. But she's like, oh, okay. She looks so sad. And then I showed her the message. I'm like, see what he wrote? See? She said, well, I don't need to see it. And then she looks up and reads it and says, yeah, Corey, no problem, enjoy. And she was so happy. But for her to have that extra ecstatic feeling, I first had to make her sad. Because she wouldn't experience happy without that sadness. And if I would have just told her, yeah, Vince coming to the office, she'd be like, oh, great, that's awesome, She still would have been happy. But not the level she was. She jumped up and down. I picked her up. I threw her on the bed. I made out with her, made some sexual whatever. And then right when I said, hey, you want to do it again? The fucking baby downstairs started saying, Mommy. So we both had a laugh. But point is, she wouldn't have experienced that amount of joy from that if I hadn't first made her sad. You want to make anybody happy? Make them fucking sad first. And they'll be twice as happy. It's worth it in the end. What do you do to somebody on their birthday? When you're doing a surprise party, you make them think they forgot their birthday, right? So that when you say surprise, it's twice as fucking more exhilarating and happy. When somebody already knows the surprise, you watch enough TV shows, it's not half as great. But anyways, that's just a small little segue, or not even a segue, just a little bit about good and bad. But to me, the language and shit, just don't buy into all this crap. It's all horse shit. Magic is real, but take the things you learn from specific gurus about, you know, whatever. Anyways, I'm not going to go back over the fake fuckers that tell you not to do stuff for yourself. Do what you feel is right inside. Don't look to YouTube, gurus, books for what you should do. You know what you need to do. Anytime you need to do something, and if you are trying to justify something right now, or, you know, I'm not sure if I should do this. No, you already have an inclination what you should do. And you're just trying to have some other evidence or some other light or justify it to yourself some way to do it. So, you want more proof? Take out a tarot deck, take out a pendulum, muscle test, whatever. Do a divination and ask the fucking gods, ask your higher self, ask your subconscious mind, ask a deity, ask the demons, ask whoever the fuck you want. You really want to justify it? Go ask the demon. Maybe they'll help you out, maybe, to do that. But you already know. You know, I don't think anybody really needs to do divination, to be honest. But I love doing divination because it's so fucking cool, the answers you get and shit. But point is, you have an intuitive sense. So if someone's telling you not to do something, don't just jump on their bandwagon and adopt their fucking programming. Do what you feel is right inside you, okay? Anyways, I gotta go get my pills, go home, and see how my oldest son's supposed to be watching them, but he was half asleep when I brought him upstairs, so anyways, I'm gonna go do that, and well, you're not gonna know, but yeah, anyways. Alrighty, everybody, so before I get to all the evolution shit, and language, and how it's connected, and how we need to evolve our language to evolve our reality, and that's the only way everybody can evolve, and how this ties into doing and using magic. So once again, magic is not the end. The goal of our civilization is not for everybody to take up magic. However, magic is the tool, is the science, is how you're supposed to, is one way, probably among many, that are all probably connected and related, but it's one way to evolve us, is through magic, because it's communicating to the part of you that creates a reality. So if that part of you that creates a reality and everybody else's reality, and if you have this mass system, network, internet, TVs, all showing images to everybody's subconscious mind, all at the same time, painting the picture of the world and the cosmos and space and governments and all this in everybody's mind, because once again, subconscious is no difference between real and fake. So if everybody's mind has the same picture and has painted this reality, well then there is some really, really powerful magician that figured this shit out a long time ago, and fucking, I mean, you gotta be in awe of what they did. Because if you think about it like that, if you think about it, how, you know, by inventing TVs and internet and all this, and always, you know, projecting TV, movies, what's going on, having even news to tell you, so everybody can know that the newest bad shit that happened, and potentially the newest good shit that happened, but mostly the bad shit that happens, media always painting the picture of the world, so that even if you don't go outside your house, your mind can still be used for someone else's magic to maintain this world, hierarchy, structures, government, all this, basically. So, what I, and people that have taught me and that I've learned from, say to do is to take up magic, learn this process. Through that, you do your own self-transformation, which means, you know, because you can't be making your reality if you're fucked up and your head's all fucked and you think world domination would be great and you'd be a great leader, yet your kids won't listen to you and you don't have a wife, or you have a wife and she hates you, and, you know, shit like that. Well, you're not ready, so you gotta undergo self-transformation. But while you're doing that, certain things that you need, you can cast for and get until you reach, you know, a certain plateau of enlightenment. Now, I don't think you can ever get to full enlightenment on this plane, but I think part of this journey, this plane, is to evolve ourselves, to bring ourselves to a new evolution where potentially we can be enlightened on this plane. And one of the interviews by James something is the Canadian guy, Canadian firefighter from Saskatchewan, who wrote many books about how the devil is actually us, or the devil is a fake being that, you know, we made up. He gives this great analogy, metaphor about a mask that he brings into the room, and, you know, before the mask is in the room, nothing bad happened. The minute he brings this you know, evil looking mask in his studio, and he starts falling, things start breaking, a bunch of bad shit happens, well, you would start thinking that the mask did it, or the mask is doing it, or it's possessed by this evil entity that has controlled you. Well, when they changed the words adversary to Satan in the Bible, that's what happened. We started, everything that bad happens is given to Satan, and we created this mass egregore called Satan, which obviously has power now if you know how egregores work, but it's not in the way that people think. And more importantly, when you take up magic, when you are a magician, you are no longer binded, controlled, manipulated by egregores anymore, because you are now at the level that creates those beings, whereas everybody else who isn't a magician or knows magic or thinks what I'm talking about right now is nuts, well, they can be controlled, possessed, you know, even have to be exorcised out of them. The devil, demons, Satan, Lucifer. You know, to me, Satan and Lucifer, I could call those spirits and talk to them if I wanted to, because I don't fear them. Even if it was the really evil ones that people are scared of. I'm not scared of that shit. They've got no control over me. And, you know, I said earlier I had a complaint about the book, Interview with the Devil there, by fucking Napoleon Hill. But that's one complaint out of a great, that's probably my only thing. And it's not even a complaint about the book, it's what the devil told him, how he perceived it, whatever the case was. And that was put in there for a reason, so it's really not even a complaint. But I don't like the fact that, you know, if someone reads that, if they think they're too far gone, they might not even try. So that's my complaint. The whole premise and point of that book, well, maybe not the whole point, but anyways, one of the main points that I think people, if they read it, or maybe don't read it, listen to it, whatever, that they may not understand is Napoleon Hill was able to talk to the devil. So whether you believe it's really the devil, or just some demon, or, you know, a subconscious mind, you know, whenever you know what you can do with deities, when you take on the deity as your subconscious mind, or you start doing witchcraft and, you know, believing, worshiping a certain deity, well, that deity can talk to you through your subconscious mind, whether you evoke it, actually physically see it, invoke it, get thoughts from it, whatever, automatic, right, doesn't matter, it can speak to you. So it's not unlikely that whatever power up until that point in the 1950s or 60s when Napoleon Hill did this trance meditation, it's very likely that, you know, if he wanted to call on the spirit of Satan, the devil, he got it. Everything that was attributed to that spirit, that entity, up until that point, that's what he was speaking to. So it's not unlikely. But the point is, he wasn't fearful of it, and the reason he was able to control it, talk to it, and make it answer him was because he didn't have fear. They thrive off fear. Fear gives them power. You give them attributes. You can write down all the attributes all day you want to make some entity, but if you don't add an emotion to that thought, it's not going to have any power. Our emotions are like beings. Our thoughts can be like entities, spirits, beings. So, but that's the point. And that's what I'm trying to tell you right now is once you become the magician, once you become magical, once you become at the level of whoever created Satan, whoever created the Bible and all the egregores and gods in it, when you're at that level, and you don't have to necessarily be, you know, done the book, the curriculum, you know, way off, but you take on the role, I am a magician. And you mean that in the real sense, not like, you know, illusionist, but when you take that on, then you have no longer any reason to fear these entities. And understand that that's important because you light up the fucking astral plane every time you do that vanishing, that lesser vanishing of the pentagram. Therefore, if you have any fear, you better conquer it soon. And this is why my first Dark Night of the Soul, getting over spirits, was so crucial. Because the thought of me lighting up the plane, astral plane, and all the lower entities that we perceive as ghosts, spirits, demons, you know, that kind of shit, the devil and Satan, that scared the shit out of me. You know, I wouldn't be able to perform magic. I'd only be able to do it during the day or with the lights on, and that doesn't work. But anyways, so that's our reality. Our reality is created by our subconscious minds, and whether it's a coordinated effort on purpose or if it's just merely by accident, that the TVs, internet, and all this simultaneously connect to all our subconscious minds to continue and create our reality is irrelevant. That's what's happening. It doesn't matter why, it doesn't matter how. We can fight over the details if we want. We can pretend we're victims and whatever the case is, but I think we're better served if we just realize it and then we counter it and then maybe figure out who to blame and put them on trial once we have it sorted out. But trying to put someone on trial before you can even prove the fucking thing or control it or, you know, be on top of it is just pointless. You know, trying to prove who did the fucking the 9/11 thing, you know, when no one's claiming it or someone has claimed it and, you know, you want to pretend it's somebody else, it's not really going to do much. You know what I mean? We got to change the culture that allows this kind of shit to happen, and then we can figure out why everybody who doesn't want to change our culture, well, then they're most likely to be, you know, the guilty parties. And out of those people, which one have ties to it, and so on and so forth, and keep going, process of elimination, and potentially finding, you know, the culprits. But that's irrelevant. But anyways, so that's what I want to talk about. I want to talk, and that's not even the whole thing, but that's what I want to connect the dots to magically is how sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. I want to connect the dots on how language can help us evolve and helps us evolve and will continue to help us evolve. But anyways, before that, the first thing I started talking about was the moon, how the full moon is coming up soon, basically tonight at 2 a.m. or tomorrow at 2 a.m., however you look at it. And the point of writing on a candle, a big candle that'll last all night, was just to say that, you know, and this works for planetary times as well. If you're not there for the planetary time, but you're using the specific planet, or if you light the candle an hour before on a different planetary time, that's fine. But you can set your intention too for this to become active at a certain time. You can imagine it being that time in your head, and it won't be any less potent. I'm telling you, whatever you can imagine can happen. So just get creative on this shit. But more importantly, if you have trouble with that stuff, or you don't think that's true or real or will work for you, well, then it probably won't, because you can make what's real and what's fake in your own head, and that's going to be your limitations you're going to make. I don't have those limitations. But instead, just create the candle, write down what you want, you know, as closest to the time as possible, and then when you fall asleep, well, that candle will still be lit and your message is still on it. And then boom, planetary time will hit. It'll be the time of the full moon. You know, it also hit the moon hour at some point during there, you know. Because, I mean, even a skinny candle, a skinny one-pillar candle there, like, you know, one of those long skinny ones, those last about 5-6 hours if you don't have it in something too close where the heat can be hotter, you know, if it's too close to too many walls or something like that, it'll keep more heat in, it'll go down faster. But there's a good relative flow of air, and, you know, anyways, point is, those last 4 hours. So if you get one that's not even that long, but like one of those big, thick ones, well, that'll last a good 12 hours. And if you double the height of that, well, that'll last a day. So, I mean, having a candle lit the entire fucking day, you're going to hit both planetary times and your full moon, whatever the case is. So that takes away the whole, because if you're one of those people that get stuck in your head and think, oh, I missed the planetary hour, or oh, I missed the full moon, so it's not going to come through. Well, no. You can do it at any time and still get your whatever you asked for to work. But this is a way to get around that until you're used to the fact that that shit doesn't matter. Whatever you say or do, you bring into existence. But before that, this is a good way to get around that. So that's one thing closed. I know there's probably a lot more I need to close, but I can't really think about it. But when I was talking about the love magic, I started off by saying I'd never done it because I didn't need to do it because I have a wife. But the point I was trying to make was every time someone, I think it was Frater, Xavier, or Birch, but I think it was Birch. One of them said, how many of your relationships have ever worked out? How many times were you right about someone you picked to be your mate? Well, if you're in one relationship now, it's going good, you can only successfully say this one, and technically it's not done yet. Therefore, if using your mind to pick a mate, using magic, that's a terrible idea, because you could be your mood, something, a spirit, who knows, but something could be influencing you to make that decision, and it might be a poor decision, and you don't have all the variables, they don't know what's hiding, you don't hiding in their closet, so on and so forth. So if you take this and you broaden it, okay, you take that and you broaden that that concept, and you use that as in I'm trying to think of what I was talking about earlier. I don't know if it was the dark night of the soul I was referring to, or magic in general, or just life before you start using magic. But it's the same concept, right? So if you start using magic, but you're not in the right mindset, and you start casting for things, right? Because at first you might cast for money. But if and then you get that money and you're still not fulfilled. Therefore, it makes more sense to cast for something that will create money for you, whether it's more money you need, or if you don't have a job period and you need a job, or if it's something tied around your hobby, so you go to work every day but it doesn't feel like work. It's better to cast for the end and just not what it provides, which is the difference between casting for a lover that, you know, gets you, understands you, is good looking, good in bed, that can be dangerous, but only as in protecting you, who's good with kids. You know, if you cast for those attributes, well, then someone will be brought to you. But if you cast for somebody you think has those attributes, well, they could just be showing you that, but really that's a fake version of themselves. Therefore, same concept. So those are kind of the two things that I wanted to just close. Have something written down about Santa Claus here, and I don't know what it is. It just says Santa Claus. And I think it probably has to do with the kids and their first dark night of the soul, right? I've often said it's pretty terrible when a kid loses the magic of Santa Claus. And, you know, it's kind of hard to make them believe in this mythical character up in the sky after they just lost their faith in Santa Claus. But in another sense, it's a good lesson, a life lesson of the world, because, you know, they're going to have that same effect, that loss of hope, loss of magic, loss of, you know, special whatever, many times in their life. So, you know, losing faith in Santa Claus is probably, it's a heartbreaking thing, but, you know, that's that difference between exposing your kids and teaching them how to deal with malevolence or sheltering them from it, you know, being overprotective versus, you know, trying to teach your kids about dangers and how to deal with them. You know, because, you know, I just got some bad stares from a couple women because I had my daughter in the car and I was playing rap music and they're swearing and shit like that. And they're looking at me and shaking their head probably, right? And it's like, okay, well, you can think I'm a bad father, but I expose my children to swearing and bad words, and I tell them how I think they should cope and deal with it and go forward. Whereas, you know, you want to shelter your kids from all this bad language and whatever else, that's fine, but they're going to go to school, and because they've never heard it before, then it's going to be special, it's going to be fun, they're going to want to say it. They're not have heard it 100 times, so it has no meaning. You know, someone's scared of an elevator, you bring them and you show them the elevator, they watch it till it's no longer scary. Same concept. You let them hear swearing until it's no longer cool, and then they have no need to swear because it's not something cool. So those women or parents staring at me thinking I'm a bad father, well, if their kid's not prepared for certain things, like the way I prepare my children for the bad things that are obviously going to happen to them in life and how to deal with it, well, they shelter their kids from that. What happens if that parent happens to die? God forbid, but that parent happens to die. Well, not only will they're no longer be sheltered from all these things that they were being sheltered from and have to deal with that, they're also going to have to deal with the tragedy of losing their parent. Therefore, you know, my kid, he, they'll be able to kill all those fucking bad things that are happening to them. You know what I mean? Use it to their benefit at the very best, and at the very worst, they won't be crippled. They'll be still useful in the face of malevolence. And, you know, they would only have to deal with my death as a tragedy if that situation was to arise. Not that it will, but you know what I mean? So. Alrighty then, everybody. What's going the fuck on? My name is Corey LeBlanc. Blah, blah, blah. Ceremonial witchcraft. Blah, 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 blah. So, Terence McKenna. Hell of a guy. Hell of a fucking guy. Says he's scared of magic, but he'll do magic mushrooms. No pun intended. No. So psilocybin, something to that effect, is in the mushroom. I got a whole bunch of theories. I want to talk about that, but first, the idea just came to me. I want to get it down and then explore it. So here it is. Terence McKenna talks about language basically permits us to move forward. Okay, so before there was language, we were fucking monkeys, let's say, and then the ability to go from monkeys to whatever. Terence McKenna and Jordan Peterson have so many commonalities. It's unbelievable, and they're so parallel with each other. It's incredible. And I'll explain that maybe a little bit later. But Peterson said, with the presence of snakes around, if we were monkeys once, that helped increase our eyesight. Okay, Terence McKenna, let's talk about the same theory. There were snakes around. We were in the African trees, African plain. Let's say we're in the Sahara and the trees before it was in the desert. it becomes too hot, trees start dying, we have to get out of our trees, okay? So we can't be vegetarians anymore, eating out of trees. Call, everybody follows, everything makes sense so far, okay? So, Saharan desert, no more trees, we have to start eating the dead carcasses that lions leave around, and we're fighting with, jackals, different dogs, smaller animals that, are doing the same thing, that can't no longer eat the plants and shit. So because of all the shit lying around, different shit, in the presence of shit, there is some type of, I want to say tryptamine, but I don't know what the term is. Maybe it's a type of amino acid, because I know amino acids are something you can make LSD out of. I don't really know. But anyways, so it's not amino acids per se, but a specific amino acid. Anyways, point is, everybody knows, well, not everybody, but a lot of people know that, and they seem to think that mushrooms taste like shit because they're growing cow shit. And that can be the case, but it isn't always the case. Now, you can buy a mushroom kit here in Cornwall, Ontario for $100. If you do it right, you can make your own magic mushrooms. It's very simple. It used to be called Smoke Signals. I don't know what it's called now, the store that sells it, but I know we still have them, and they're still $100. And this is like 10 years ago they were $100, and right now they're $100. So they basically just want you making mushrooms, and they want to sell the kits for $100, whatever the fuck that's worth. Even though it was worth more then than it is now, it doesn't matter. The point is, that's my point. Okay, so there's a bunch of shit lying around from different animals on top of, I don't know if the mushrooms have to already be there, grown in the shit, or they're a product of the shit, and then the mushrooms grow because of that. But whatever the case is, monkeys are eating leftover meat and different things they can find off the ground, okay? We are the monkeys. We're just a newer version of the monkeys, okay? They start eating the mushrooms. Now, if you were to eat a dose of mushrooms, now this has been proven, if you were to eat a dose of mushrooms, okay, right now, you, a person who hasn't ever eaten mushrooms, or someone who has eaten mushrooms, someone who knows very well how hard they can get off mushrooms, okay, let's say. Coppers are everywhere. I almost feel like I'm being fucking followed. I'm seeing OPPs, I'm seeing Cornwalls, I'm seeing fucking RCs. I love it. Anyway, if you're eating mushrooms, if I put my seatbelt on first, by these OPP cocksuckers, so I got nothing against cops, I know they're just doing a job. If you eat enough mushrooms to not get high, let's say you're trying to get high, oh fuck man, I didn't eat enough, I didn't catch. Or you're someone who doesn't want to try mushrooms, or you're doing this for an experiment. Either way, you eat just the bare minimum. If they were to do the test, and I forget the name of the machine that would test this, but it's basically to test your eyesight, your vision, okay? So let's say you're looking at those cards on the wall. So you got 20/20. Let's say you had 15 out of 20. I don't even know how that works, but let's say you weren't 20/20. Well, your eyesight would have improved to what increment, to what level? I have no idea, but it has been proven that eating muscaria, psilocybin present mushrooms, okay, will improve your eyesight while you are on the mushroom. Does it last? I don't know. I know I was supposed to have glasses as a child, and I no longer need those glasses. I know most people that I know that wear glasses today have never done mushrooms. I know Terence McKenna wears glasses, so you can come to your own conclusions and follow that line of study, so I don't know. But the theory I just want to bring up a theory anyway. And I kind of lost the main focus of my theory, but I'm sure it'll come back to me. So, and it's about language, so that's going to be important. Anyway, so mushrooms can help you develop your eyesight. Now, when it comes to Pearson's theory with the snakes, I think this helps, because whether the snakes allowed us and made us have to see better and be creative and help us move along our evolution to make us see better doesn't really make sense. But because we needed to see better to eat, to become hunters, and to not be hunted by snakes, well, we eat a mushroom and we realize, hey, we're a better hunter, and we can move around a little bit better, and we can see things faster than the jackals and other animals see them, and so on and so forth. Nowhere else I have a clip for you where he explains this a lot better than I do. So everything is good. Now, in a little bit, if you eat a little bit more mushrooms, you reach this state of you can't sit down quietly. You're kind of You have more energy. You don't want to sit still. And for males especially, and even women don't get erections, but men can have erections sometimes because they're in this their body state is just kind of this harmonious, nice, happy state. He explains this a hell of a lot better. I can't remember the words. And then if you increase that dose where you are hallucinating, you're doing the amount that typically is associated with getting high off mushrooms. Okay, well then this starts making people talk, be more friendly, or having a great time. Sometimes, I know for me anyways, every time taking mushrooms, it's been like 45 minutes to an hour where I just laugh continuously for no fucking reason. Everything is just funny for that hour. Give or take off and on throughout the period of time, but every single time I would just laugh for like an hour. It's just one period of just pure joy laughter, which, in all honesty, if you're trying to do magic, well, you want a whole hour of just laughing and be happy and then bringing shit to you, then this might be the greatest time to concentrate, your ideas and thoughts, whatever the case is. But anyways, this will bring on language, talking with people, socializing, having a good old time with your buddies. Now, beyond all this, okay, Terence McKenna talks about how language is the universe, the universe is the language. DMT is a universe that is created by language, and how we can't get any more into the future unless our language progresses as well. Because you can't create things that haven't been created yet. You can't call these things by a name that haven't been created yet. You can't use things to create something with stuff that hasn't been called yet. That might be very confusing, but the point I'm trying to make is for us to develop further in the future and create a better future, create a world that we want to be part of, whatever you want to call this, okay, ascension, rapture, revelation, new earth, 5 fucking dimension, whatever you want to call it. We can't get there unless our language is also evolved. If the way we perceive matter and feel matter and experience our realm is evolved enough for us to be able to explain it in our language, because if you reach an enlightenment, okay, you really, if you get to a certain plateau where you are above and beyond and you're living in this new realm, well, that's fucking great, but how do you explain? You have to explain to people how to do it as well. And if there isn't language suitable for you to be able to explain that, then you're going to be there by yourself in this new 5-dimension, 5th-dimensional world. Now, if our language and our way we use language progresses for us to be able to teach and tell everybody how to get to this beautiful new realm, then we can all go there together. So stay with me on this.
Non-advanced primates like squirrel monkeys, howler monkeys, these kinds of primates all have male dominance hierarchies. The whole thing with primates is about male dominance. But a lot of things about human beings mark us as the most unique member of the primate group. Obviously, we look different from any other monkeys. Even the stranger monkeys look more like the normal monkeys than we look like them, or they look like us. Our upright posture. The other thing about us is our suppressed estrus cycle. We cannot tell at a glance whether a woman is in heat or not. And yet, obviously, that had a tremendous shaping force on the social psychology of the primates. I believe that everything about us that is noble and worth saving occurs against the grain. That if we had followed the grain, we would still be competing with jackals for the carcasses left by lions of large game kills on the plains of Africa. But when the African continent began to dry up and we were forced out of the trees where we had an arboreal vegetarian lifestyle, we came under great pressure to expand our diet. And I believe that the great unstudied factor in human evolution and human emergence is the effect of a complex diet on our emerging species. And it's not only the presence of hallucinogens such as psilocybin in the diet, but other things as well. Psilocybin is the most spectacular case, and if you came to see Darwin, you'd have to hear about evolution. So you came to see me, so you have to hear this little theory about human emergence. Most of you can probably recite it by heart now. But it's a three-step feedback loop from a fairly bright monkey to a fairly stupid human being. And the way it works like this: these monkeys come down out of the trees. They're predating on kills of ungulate mammals made by lions. They're competing with jackals. They're testing all the foods in the environment, and lo and behold, in the manure of these ungulate mammals that are irradiating across the African continent, there are what are called coprophytic mushrooms. And the presence of large amounts of tryptophan in manure as a substrate means that these coprophytic mushrooms elaborate psilocybin. So here in this new grassland environment are the psilocybin mushrooms. Well, these proto-hominid creatures testing foods for their diet would reach the psilocybin and would test it. Well, then this three-part feedback loop to humanness then comes into play. And it works like this. Very, very light doses of psilocybin, so light that you cannot an hour and a half or 2 hours later tell you've taken anything. You say, I don't feel it. I feel completely normal. I must not have taken enough. That dose, if you would submit yourself to being tested by an optometric apparatus, we could show you that your vision has improved slightly. This is an effect of eating small amounts of psychoactive amines, increase of visual acuity. Well, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to know that if you're a hunting animal competing in a highly competitive environment and suddenly somebody hands you a pair of chemical binoculars, you are going to be a more successful hunter than other members of your species who are not availing themselves of this food item. So there was reinforcement there. Aha, if we eat these mushrooms in small amounts, we will be more successful hunters. Or maybe it was never raised to consciousness as an if-then relationship. It was just, we eat mushrooms, we hunt well kind of thing. Then, if you eat slightly more of the psilocybin, if you bring slightly more of it into your diet, it's what's called a CNS stimulator, central nervous system stimulant. An effect of all CNS stimulants is what's called arousal. And arousal means simply that you can't sit still, you're very restless, you're very energetic, and often in the male animal you have an erection. It's an overall systemic arousal. And if you witness this situation in monkeys are very hang-loose kind of characters, and so then they just all fall together in a heap and make love. And this increases what anthropologists and primatologists like to call successful instances of copulation. This means that this increased interest in sex, in combination with an increased success in obtaining food, is creating the perfect situation in which there will be a population boom of these creatures. They're eating better, they're enjoying themselves more, and they have better relationships with each other. So population boom is on the way. Well then, the next and final level is when you raise the dose higher, so you're no longer restless or interested in sex or any of that, but you're flattened with the ecstatic unfolding of the full, numinous, hallucinogenic rupture of plane, then, and this occurs, in the tribal context, then there is boundary dissolution, group sexual activity, and group bonding and identification. And this is where this telepathic coherence, this inner dynamic of cohesion and caring that we see in primitive people to some small degree, and that we imagine must once have been our birthright, this is where it came to be. And at those higher levels of psilocybin, most of you probably know, language is formed by an organ on one side of the brain called Broca's area. Broca's area, the brain being always symmetrically constructed, Broca's area has a twin on the opposite side of the brain, but no one knows what's going on there. It's apparently a silent area of the brain. Well, when you take psilocybin, there is spontaneous linguistic activity, glossolalia. Henry Munn has written about this in his essay, The Mushrooms of Language. It's almost as though psilocybin is a pheromone that promotes linguistic activity, an effort to take verbal intentionality and connect it up to the ontos of being in some way. And then it's almost as though words are born out of you. You give birth to words. And these concrescences of meaning then create a kind of unitary ambiance, which we call understanding. Language is a miracle. I mean, make no mistake about it. I don't think any amount of dissection of monkeys or human cadavers will give you any insight into language. Language is a behavior of some sort, so bizarre, so many orders of magnitude more complex than anything else we do, that for all practical purposes, this is the thumbprint of God upon creation. Human language. And it's a self-transforming thing. It keeps bootstrapping itself to higher and higher levels, and it creates for us the entire ambiance of reality. Once we had words, we quickly replaced reality with them. And so I believe that what psilocybin promotes is cognitive activity, the coordination of visual input with plans and strategies for hunting or acquisition or whatever. It promotes this increased arousal, which really, in a way, we as moderns are absolutely as in awe of as our mushroom-munching ancestors 25,000 years ago. We can't reduce it. We don't know what it is. Jung was always so concerned that people say it's only psychological. It's only the psyche. I've got news for you. It may only be the psyche, but the psyche is all there is. And as we came into a relationship with the mushroom, humanness emerged on the African belt and was able to stabilize itself for a few millennia, and then we fell into history because of climatological change for many reasons, but we literally fell into history. And now we operate in this lower domain, a domain of limitation, of misunderstanding, of low-grade languages, and we are neurotic, we are unhappy, we are dysfunctional, and I believe this is because our connection to the logos, to the informing voice that gives meaning to being, has been broken. Over 10,000 years, it's fallen away. And all we're left with is our spiritual yearnings, our nostalgia for paradise, and our pathologies. And, miraculously, we are left with the time capsule of preservation represented by the rainforest shamanic cultures that use hallucinogens. There lies our answer, but it's like the Ouroboros serpent taking its tail in its mouth. The salvation of the super future of the planet lies in a recovery of the values, modalities, and religious practices of 25 to 50,000 years ago. Break, break, break.
All right, so now I'm going to try to get into this language and how it defines our reality. So a good example before I start, just to set maybe the tone and what I kind of mean by this, is I already went over how the language of the Bible, okay, the guy that you may or may not have already heard the clips of, probably not, because I normally put it at the end of the videos, or at the end of my podcast, but the dude who did all the research on how Satan is, was a not mistranslation necessarily, you know, because I keep saying they changed adversary to Satan, but that's not really what happened. Hasatan would be the Satan, which would be the adversary. So the proper way to probably think about this, in my head anyways, is that in the language of, whether it's Latin, Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic, whatever the original language was, the word for adversary was not yet a language. So when the Bible was translated initially, okay, the closest word we had for Satan would have been adversary, meaning even then when they translated it and had to find the closest word for that meaning. So someone who knew the language, okay, and was explaining to the translator, and who knew that language plus our English language, or whatever the language they first, whatever, if it was Greek, Roman, whatever it was, okay? So the first person who knew both languages when it got translated, they made clear that the word ha was the, and satana, or satan, okay, is the closest thing we would have would be the adversary, or adversary. Basically, would be God sending you whatever you want to call it. Whether you want to take it as a lesson, as a hard times for you to conquer, so to make you stronger, because you can't make someone stronger by sending them easy circumstances. That doesn't make anybody stronger. If anything, it makes them weaker. A child who's protected has easy circumstances because their life is easy. Everything is done for them. They are protected. They don't have to see the malevolence and harm of the world. They don't have to deal with this shit head on. So they're not having any adversary. When that child who's been protected starts getting some ha-satan, or some Satan, some adversary, something they have to go up against that, you know, seems too hard for them, they can either give up and play victim and say, oh, everything is up against me. Well, no, that's the world. Everything is up against you. But really, it's not. It's things you have to trial through, because if you can't get past this first hurdle that's only a foot high, or you jump over a hurdle that's a foot high, well, then you're never going to get over a 2-foot hurdle. You're never going to get over a 3-foot hurdle. And, you know, I think the hurdles are close to 4 feet whenever someone's doing, you know, the Olympic hurdles or whatever the case is. And then you got the high jump, which is even more, you know. So point is, you know, I used to skateboard. You got to learn how to ollie up onto a curb before you can even think about ollieing over one deck, which is basically a skateboard on its side, right? Pretty darn close to 12 inches. Not quite the same. But 2 decks isn't 2 feet. It's, you know, the first whole deck plus the half of the other deck, because they kind of interlock, basically. But that's getting higher. But you have to first be able to get onto a curb, possibly. And then, you know, keep rolling after. You have to learn how to ollie first. Everything happens in steps. So whatever you set yourself, whatever direction you want to become, whether it's a manager, whether it's a spiritual leader, whether it's a psychiatrist, whether it's a fucking teacher who's on strike right now. No offense. Teachers are fighting for what they believe in, and I believe in that. I believe in people fighting for what they believe in, as long as it's not something else masquerading, pretending to be something virtuous, and really it's malevolence. So just, you got to be careful with those lines and not think that, you know, giving in, apologizing, or, you know, is a sign of weakness. Because if it's a sign of weakness, then why are these things so hard to do? Why is it easier to be hard-headed and fight than it is to say I'm sorry and let the other person, quote-unquote, win? But anyways, besides the point, so the closest translation into probably whatever language, from either Hebrew, Aramaic, to whatever language, Greek, Italian, who knows, Okay, closest word that language had for that was adversary. And it might not even been, but it might be the equivalent to our word now, adversary. Point is, every time you retranslate stuff, we realize that we either don't have a word that means that, and we give it the closest meaning. But somewhere, some point, at some time, and the person makes this very clear. I even study a little bit of Zoroaster. It starts with a Z. It's a religion, and it's a very dual religion. One of the first ones before Christ. It's one of the ones that have the same Christ kind of mythical storyline. But anyways, it's very clear that was part of the Hebrews spent time there, and there was multiple religions all at once. You can believe in whatever you wanted, as long as you knew that there was a benevolent God and a God that was evil, per se, that brings you hardship. And this is I've already talked about how a lot of ancient religions had evil gods, and we had to basically send them sacrifice offerings, whatever, so their evil would stay at bay, which is an acknowledgement of knowing that there's evil in the world. And if you take precautions, steps to if you're not naive and you hit these things head on, or you even try to bargain with it, kind of like the sacrifice, when you save money now and you put off impulsive desire spending, pleasures, whether that's drugs, spending, gambling, food, drinking, whatever, you put that off, and the money we're going to spend, you put it in the bank. Well, then you're going to have a brighter future the day when you go to spend that money. Once again, whether it's impulsive now or saved later, you're going to have more joy saving that money than you probably will spending it. All the things you can imagine in your head that you may or may not do due to your all the things you're imagining in your head that you're saving that money for. All the thoughts are going to be far more fantastic and a greater realization and funner to imagine all the different things you can do, because when it comes down to it, you're going to be able to do one or two things probably with the money you saved. Either retire, or instead of retiring, you keep working, but you decide to buy a boat and an RV, so when in 10 years you can retire. Whatever the case is, okay? Point is, just like whenever you're going through college, and you're making an essay for your last class, as Peterson kind of puts it. I'm dumbing it down a bit because, technically I'm not a university, and I only took a very basic college course. So, but, it's more exciting preparing that. And then once it's over and you have your degree, your certificate, your diploma, whatever, it's kind of like, okay, well, what the fuck do I do now? Because you set yourself up to get that limitation, and while you're striving towards that goal, that's when the release of endorphins and positive emotion come from. And while you're striving for that goal, you have to get a bunch of limiting, crushing circumstances that happen to you that you can either say, well, I'm dropping this class, this isn't for me, or you can say, no, I'm stronger than this and I can attain this. And you receive all this positive emotion as you conquer these hurdles, you jump over these hurdles, and then you receive the goal. But once you receive that goal, it's great for the few minutes that, you realize that everything you did was great, but now what? Now you gotta start over. So you gotta find a job in that field, or you gotta pay off your loans. Whatever the case is, there's a whole new set of limitations. One thing dies and one thing restarts again. That's our life. But, so, back to the Satan story. The hurdles that we are going over, the hurdles we're going over and the adversaries and limitations that are there meant to protect us and stop us from doing... Mia! That's enough! Sorry about that. My dog's barking for no reason. And the barking doesn't bug me. To me, that's her job. Scare people away. You need to know she's got a big mouth and she's going to say something when people are close. But the scratching at my shared fence between me and my neighbor that they technically put in and paid for, that keeps getting wrecked from wind and possibly my dog. And no, I don't need her to do more damage. So that's why I yell at her, not just to be mean. But anyways, so closest translation is adversary. But then at some point that got switched and was created as a demon. So instead of just saying God, the all-benevolent God, the good God, our God, sends you bad things and good things. If you're on the... Because, this is speculation, but at some point, somebody either was trying to hide the fact that they did something wrong and was given shitty circumstances and, maybe it was a king, maybe it was somebody who other people looked up to, but they were being a fake or a fraud. And, possibly they didn't want people to believe that, because if God, the one God, sends you some bad shit, well, that means you're probably a bad person. So, and then people got on board, and eventually it got switched out. But, God of the Bible, whatever you think he is, doesn't matter. But just reading the what's written, he makes it very clear there's no God above him, that he is capable of atrocities like floods and killing people, turning them into pillars of smoke, or pillars of ash rather. Like, there's a lot of bad things that God does. So it's very clear that the things that people think Satan may or may not do is very possible that God does. But anyways, speculation time. Like I said, maybe a king, someone of prominence and power, was getting bad circumstances that he couldn't hide from his people. So instead of his people wanting or knowing those things happen, maybe before they become evident, like before a girl is showing her pregnancy, she's pregnant, but she's got this time to think of what she wants to do, either abort it, put it up for adoption, hide it from, parents, run away, whatever. This king had this time before whatever was seen by his people, and the people would know that he's a fraud or a fake, or that God gave him some bad shit. So maybe he starts and puts emotion in that, what, guys, I had a vision that there's an evil God out there that does the bad things, and our true God spoke through me saying that he created this evil God. Or maybe that's not even in there, and if this God is the one who's in charge now of, since there's so many people here, I can't watch y'all, so this devil God is going to be in charge of laying out punishment to those who are bad. You know what I mean? And maybe he doesn't like king and greed and shit like this. So he sets it up so that this evil entity is the one giving them the bad stuff instead of the God. So the people don't start doing things, because he already knows something bad's going to be seen by his people. Therefore, he can prophesize and say things that, whatever, and then boom, when the thing becomes evident to everybody, the bad thing that he knew damn well was going to happen, so he created this entity, he can show proof of, like, see, I told you, this guy doesn't like when you do this. See, I did this, and this happened. Therefore, my theory is true. Kind of like goes back to that whole hypnosis thing. If you give somebody a true fact, and then you give them a speculation fact that you create in your head, and, they'll say, well, this is true, so this has also got to be true. It's a way of tricking the mind, basically, and getting into your subconscious where they don't know the difference between real and fake. But anyways, so that was just speculation of how it may have happened. However, the one thing I can say, and I'm not trying to do that trick to you, although it might even seem like I am, because I just said what, say something true, which is true at some point. Adversary turned into, Satan, and entities started developing all these different characteristics, and then I give you my speculation theory, and you can run with it if you want, but there's a bunch of them, and King James, switching different words in the Bible is evidence that kings may or may not have done shit like this. So take what you want out of that. Point is, there is no Satan, and witches have known this for a long time. Ceremonial magicians also know this. Anybody into magic kind of knows this. Honestly, the moment you get into, and I know I harp on it a lot, and it's kind of a weird thing to harp on, but when you start learning how to make or learning about egregores, servitors, thought forms, it really clears everything up for you, because it's one of the best explanations for gods and deities and all this shit. And it's even, we could technically be someone's thought form. If you go by the Kabbalion, we are all in the mind of God. We are all in the dream of God. Technically, that makes us the thoughts of God. What do we do when we make a thought form? Well, it's our thought with emotion added to it. So we are technically someone else's servitor or egregore. And then within that, we can create servitors. As above, so below. The creation, the creator makes creations. And those creations can create within them. We can make children, we can make thought forms, and we can use physical materials to also make things. Point is, it keeps shit rolls downhill. But anyways, the reason I bring up the whole Satan adversary thing is because to show you how language can warp or alter or change your what you perceive. So therefore, because their imagination is powerful, and a lot of people don't want to admit that it's very powerful. However, everything starts with your imagination, your mind, your thoughts. And the people who read the Bible and saw adversary were under the presumption that God would hand out punishment. He was the judge. He would judge you And if you fucked up, he would send you some little bit of hell on earth. And if you were good, he would send you some heaven on earth, basically. And then this gets warped to this all-benevolent God. And then this big religion gets created out of it, takes over. And then this entity gets created. And I'm not trying to play down Satan, because with the amount of people that are Christian, the amount of people that aren't Christian, that all believe that there's a devil just because they believe there's a God, this polar opposite thing, which if you actually read the law of polarity, and I'm not trying to say, well, this is real and believe in it, but let's say you believe in the laws of the Hermetic principles. Well, the law of polarity means everything that you think are opposites are the same, just different degrees. Therefore, God and the devil are the same. It's just different degrees of this being's temperament. Just like we have both poles within us, but it's both part of our system. It's our energy. It's our electricity. And some of it's negative and some of it's positive, but it's all one thing. So, but by creating a dualistic, polar, opposite, two-deity religion, which you give your fear power to the devil and you give your love power to God, you are fueling two entities that were created. Okay? And this language has been able to, and like I said in my last episode, I don't know if this is done on purpose or by accident. Everything points to on purpose, but there's no way to know. And the person who created this is long and gone. So unless he puts it in his will every year, and magically and sigilly, and people from his family line are able to adopt it by, magically getting into this shit and figuring out how to use these egregores and entities to their benefit, okay, then, whoever created these entities are long gone. And if they were real at one point and now they're fake, let's say they were real at one point and that God was a real God and someone else's creation, but they created it and it was so powerful because everybody believed in it that it could cause floods if it wanted to. It could cause fires. That's some real crazy magic shit. I'm not thinking that's real at all. Sorry, I got cut off by a call. So whether or not that's real or not doesn't matter. But if you pretend or just, indulge me in the thought that maybe someone who was a very powerful magician who had everybody's thoughts focused on this egregore, Yahweh or Jehovah, whichever one you want to call it, God of the Bible, God itself, then, that person was very powerful and maybe tried to extend their life, maybe was successful, but eventually died. And unless someone keeps carrying on and feeding that egregore entity, then it's either been killed or transformed into something entirely different. Who knows? There's no way to really fucking ever know. You can know the rules, and you can go by the rules to protect yourself or try to change or manipulate or even tap into that. Point is, though, if it's, you can't ever really know what happened or why it was done like that. But this is how language language basically creates our reality. You have a thought, and then you turn that thought into symbols, and then those symbols create your reality, or whatever the case is. You can just do it all within your head. But then language comes along, okay? And it's a way to get people to not do that, and to get people to read, write, and do things that you want them to do. You make a bunch of history books and tell people how the world was, and then this picture is in their mind. You teach them from the age 4 to 18 if they go all the way up, and even if they drop out at 15 or 16, whatever the age is, then they drop out, then, you know what I mean, you still have this imprinted in them. You have movies and everything backing that up. I said this a little bit already, but it all comes from language. Everybody on the TV, every word you read in a paper, on the internet, the blogs, the videos, it's all people using language, and this language is painting a picture to our minds. It is a bit slower process to make manifestation happen, but either way, language makes our reality in that sense. Now, it doesn't have to, and you can use just your mind and the pictures to make your own reality once you take control of that. But for everybody else, language dictates it. And the reason I brought up the Satan thing, well, one, we've been talking about it, but two, is a good representation of how language changes things and makes things happen for people and a large, because there's a lot of people that believe in the devil. Almost probably more than God, because some people see more evil than they see good, and it's easier to believe in the devil than it is to believe in God sometimes. Therefore, by creating that, by changing adversary to Satan, and by writing down a bunch of words and things that this entity does. Not only did they create an egregore or a thought form, but everybody has this belief of this mythical being. Therefore, these words have shaped our reality as we know it today. And the only way to reverse or go in the direction that we need to go is to do the same process. Now, I'm not telling you to create egregores or thought forms, but magic, this Age of Aquarius, I had a video about Age of Aquarius and what the event is. And the event is the Age of Aquarius. And what I meant by that was the Age of Aquarius, the event is nothing more but nothing less. Now, this isn't a trivial thing, but it's a lot basic. It's not something that's going to happen, but things can happen from it. It was simply that magic, adding emotion to thought, creates a reality. That is the Age of Aquarius. I think it's a Temperance Tarot card, but to me, it represents, Aquarius for, in a manner of speaking, because Aquarius is the water bearer, and he's pouring out the pitcher of water, right? That's the Aquarius symbol. It's Aquarius, but yet it's an air sign. Aqua is normally water, but Aquarius, it's got aqua and air in it. Air and water are their technically opposites, but are the same on another level. They oppose each other, just like Earth and fire are opposites. Venus and Mars are across from each other, and Saturn and the moon, or Saturn and Jupiter, or the sun and the moon are opposite to each other. Mercury is also up there with the air peoples, but he kind of bounces all over the place. He's so fast, but he's technically air more than anything. But anyways, point is that Aquarius is the water bearer. He's pouring out the water. He's pouring out the Jesus, the Pisces, the Piscean age, and to bring it into the Age of Aquarius. And what happens when you put water, your emotion, into thought, which is air? You get your manifestation. Well, the event is us coming into this knowledge and using it to our benefit and no longer to our detriment, because even in the Age of Pisces, this was basically our emotions ruling us and someone else's law ruling us through TV, pictures, whatever. And we're coming into the knowledge now that this has been done to us. It doesn't matter if it was on purpose or by accident, but we can now take control of it ourselves, empower ourselves this way. And you don't need to follow a guru to do this shit. You can do it yourself. And you'll be better served, because there are some gurus out there that you can believe, but most of those guys are the guys that aren't going to talk themselves up and say, hey, follow me. They're going to say, hey, this is how you help yourself. And some gurus will tell you how to help yourself, and it's really trying to tell you how to help them or go against magic. But, use your discernment, what WWJD, witches will justly discern, okay? Not what would Jesus do. Jesus isn't even his real name. That's a fake entity egregore. That's even proof of that so many people believe in Jesus, and that wasn't even his real name. You could bring that up, but it doesn't matter. Jesus, using that word, has power behind it. Attributes were added to that. But anyways, so that's a very small, basic painting a picture of how the words create our reality and are used to hold us back or going to be used to propel us forward. So the event, the fact that we can do this using our words, writing things down, going on YouTube and talking and telling people that this shit is real, that you can use words. This is how words were used against you. Don't believe in these certain things. And not necessarily telling people what not to believe in, because I don't believe in that either. Because, you can believe in the Bible and Jesus, because there's some good meanings in there. If it's not, if the bad stuff of the Bible doesn't come out of it through you just because you believe in one thing, you believe in everything. So, I don't want to tell people what not to believe either, whatsoever. But I want to tell people, I want people to understand that they can help themselves. They have the power within themselves to do this. And the way forward is to not keep believing in all these books and languages as holy objects that are, historical fact. The best way to go forward is to write down what you want to happen. Evolve your life through writing. Do the symbols, do the meditations, do the rituals, and you will transform your life. Therefore, when you become the change you want to see, people see that change and want to know how to do it. You will profit from it. You will get, good energy from it because you're helping others. Therefore, you will get help. It's just an upward spiral that it goes to infinity. And this is how we change the world. This is how, instead of words holding us back, words can evolve us. And you're going to hear in the Terence McKenna part where he talks about how words, DMT trips all these different things. From what he can tell, it's words that create our reality. And it's pretty profound. That's where all this came from. So I think before I continue on, I'm going to play that and a couple other things that are relevant to it. And if I don't come back on, well, then I'll talk about it more next time, because this is a completely important subject to everyone's magical abilities. And even more so, it's important because it helps you break your matrix coding power and all that, and the program, whatever. Don't use the word matrix, but you know what I mean. So anyways, that's as far as I'm going to go for now. But yeah, like I said, listen to the things I put on and come up to your own conclusions, and realize how you can use words to your benefit, and stop using certain words that are going to hurt you and hold you back. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, I'm going to try to come back on and clarify this more, but there's a chance I won't, because wife's leaving. I got to watch the girls. It's going to be very hard for me to record. If I don't put it on now, I might not get on today. And I really like putting out episodes every Saturday. This will be like 3 weeks in a row I did it. Don't expect a double episode, but you know, if divine inspiration comes, well, then it comes. But anyways, hope you enjoyed this. Sorry if I got a little out of hand and swearing a lot and started yelling and shit, but, you know, it is what it is. Can't always control your emotions. Let them out, and then deal with them, and then move on. Don't hold anything in. Anyways, have a great fucking day.
Then you're on your way to being a dominant species, not by crushing the opposition to everybody else. So it's not by triumphing over the ecosystem, but by integrating yourself so thoroughly into it that it can't function without you. Then you're on your way to being a dominant species, not by crushing the opposition. Let's see how we're doing here. What are deconstructionists doing to our understanding of the language? Is it helpful? By deconstructionists, I suppose you mean Jacques Derrida and that crowd. Well, I think deconstruction serves a very useful function. I think we are unaware of how thoroughly language is the medium in which we swim, how thoroughly our world is built of language. In a way, the boundary-dissolving character of the plant hallucinogens is a dissolving of language barriers. They show you that the surface of reality was not the surface of reality, it was the surface of your local language. And now it's gone, and here is what lies beneath it. At what point in the evolution of organic matter on Earth do psychoactive plants appear, and why? Interesting question. If we're talking about psychoactive fungi, we're severely limited by the fossil record, because no fossil mushroom has ever been found older than 40 million years. This is because fossil mushrooms are very soft-bodied, ephemeral kind of thing. As primary decomposers, which is what fungi are doing on this earth, it's reasonable to assume that they must have been here from the very beginning of the conquest of the land, but proof in the fossil record has not been forthcoming. Now, if we're talking about higher plants, flowering plants, which is mostly what we're talking about here, then no flowering plants existed before 65 million years ago. Flowering plants emerged out of the same catastrophe that destroyed the dinosaurs and set the stage for the emergence of the mammals. This is something people don't realize. Flowering plants are as recent as mammals. You know, if you look at if the period of life on Earth is visualized as a yardstick, the period of the flowering plants is the last inch and a half. And it's also the rise of the mammals occurs in that last inch and a half. So before that, the plant life on the Earth was of a very different sort, and we know nothing about its chemistry. Here's someone who asked a Zen question. What would make the present government interested in the study of psychedelics? I don't know. they could make a buck out of it. I don't think they're very interested in psychedelics. I don't think any political...
Since you can't use your own creative mind, I use mine for you.
Yeah, they were very interested in psychedelics.
Except that they abandoned it. Yes, MK Ultra, for those of you who don't know, stands for Mind Control, spelled the Southern way. Mind Control Ultra was a program the CIA pursued in the 1960s where they tried out all kinds of psychedelic drugs, and they also worked with it in combination with hypnosis. They were trying to make what they called the Trojan horse. This was somebody who would be an assassin but not even know it. And how far they got with all of this, we will never know, because of course it all disappears behind the walls of secrecy. But the declassified history of the CIA and LSD is very interesting. Some of you may know the book Acid Dreams by Martin Lee. Fascinating history of the way the government tried and really failed, I think, to use psychedelics. The government's initial approach to LSD was, this is great. This is a truth serum. We can give this to enemy agents and they'll tell us all we know. Well, a few months following that path, they decided, no, this is an obscurity drug. We can give this to our agents and they can take it if they're captured and no one can learn anything from it. And, clearly this was not a fruitful path either. And I don't fault the government. I don't really fault the government for this. After all, the government is in the business of being the government. I don't think any institution can inculcate psychedelics into its own program, because psychedelics destroy institutions. All institutions. I mean, it's like trying to move an acid around that corrodes whatever pipes you pour it through. And because the boundary-dissolving quality of psychedelics is precisely the quality that government is involved in resisting. Government builds up labels, hands out role models, explains how everything is, and this stuff just then melts that back into a primal chaos. So it's pretty corrosive of any social values that don't arise spontaneously out of biological organization. It's anarchist. It's the acid of anarchy, in a way. All right, we're never going to get through this list, but it's gratifying to know it's here if we need it. Here's a question about the time wave, which I'm going to skip because we're not talking about the time wave today, and pity the poor soul who's never heard of it. Know of any herbal sources to raise serotonin as a treatment for depression? No, I'm not. I don't know a lot about herbal medicines. They look like complex blocks in this signal in a slightly different way than it is normally perceived. So there's a molecular connection. There's a connection down into the molecular level. This will be our last one this morning. Language transcendence. Huxley, Jung, and others often mention liberating and enlightening epiphanies as beyond language and iconic imagery. You yourself mention this. Can you explain further the use of transcendental language? Yeah, and we might talk about that a little this afternoon. I sort of alluded to it this morning. My idea is that language is a process that is half completed in us as we sit here, and that language is really something which wants to be seen, not heard, but that we are on our way to evolving toward this visible language, and we currently are operating with these somewhat substandard acoustical codes, where I make small mouth noises, they go through the air, they strike your ear, you look in a culturally validated dictionary. If your dictionary is like my dictionary, and you understand what's in your dictionary, then we say we are communicating. But in a visual language, in a visibly beheld language, there is no culturally validated dictionary. There is simply a hardwired kind of animal language that we all understand instantly from birth without any cultural acclamation to it, because it is the natural language of human beings. Of getting out, revealing, defining, refining this natural language. The place where the psychedelics impact upon us as social creatures is the language domain. I mean, you may have tremendous epiphanies and breakthroughs, but if you can't talk about it, or paint about it, or dance about it, or in any way communicate it to anybody, then it is not efficacious for the species. It's just your private entertainment. So the domain of language is where the collective impact is coming. And one of the things I think about psychedelics is that they are probably capable of helping us force the evolution of language. Because we cannot move into the future any faster than our language of description for the future. So if we're interested in streamlining culture and getting away from this sort of random walk style of cultural evolution, then we have to look at rationally interfacing with the evolution of language. And maybe we can talk about that when we come back. Thanks very much. I appreciate your sitting for this. Brian, when you get a minute, I can... Well, this morning was sort of an intro in case people needed to be brought up to speed. We discussed basically the distribution of these psychoactive plants with a history of shamanic use, and then discussed a little bit about the history of them, and I didn't really finish with that because I want to stress that this, I think what we talked about this morning is we got them all to a good place. We got them all to paradise in Africa with clear vision, much food, and plenty of horsing around. And then we broke for lunch. The forces that created the origins were not present in the biome. People concentrated on or this mad rush to purity or something. Not at all. The very best stuff was retained in this process because in terms of relative strength and bizarreness of effect and so forth, the strangest, the most powerful, the most transformative of all hallucinogens in nature or out is dimethyltryptamine, DMT. And it's worth talking about DMT for a moment because it will raise certain issues and distinctions that you may not have been aware of. First of all, DMT is hands down the most powerful of all hallucinogens. I mean, it is so powerful that whatever's in second place is lost over the horizon. Yet, it is the most benign of all hallucinogens because it occurs as an endogenous neurotransmitter in the normal human brain. Every single one of us at this moment have N,N-dimethyltryptamine being synthesized, activated, and degraded in our synaptic membrane. So this is almost a paradox. The most benign of all hallucinogens, the most fast-acting, I should also add, is also the most harmless. The easiest to take. It sort of puts a certain obligation on the experient because there is no reason to hold back. Except that there is this question, does it drive you mad? And then the more serious version of that question, what about the possibility of death by astonishment? This is no joke. Death by astonishment is, I think, probably the major risk we run with this stuff, because the impact of the breakthrough is so total, so complete, so unexpected. And in a way, this sort of brings me back around to my theme, because I encountered DMT, LSD, all of these things in that very period when I was getting set to take flight as a Jungian analyst. And what completely blew my mind about DMT, and I mention it again, here's an opportunity for research, is how here's a heretical construction, how trans-archetypal the content of the flash seemed. I was appalled because not only had I a certain amount of interest in Jung and proclivity along those lines, but my original major had been art history. Art historians, what we're trained to do is to be able to look at a motif and say, oh yes, I'm familiar with this from ceramic from second millennia Peru and also Mandaean embroidery work. We know motifs. We're trained to recognize and connect disparate aesthetic domains. Well, when I smoked DMT and came down, I said, this is not on the map. I can't believe it. This doesn't connect up to anything. How can there be domains of the human mind that do not announce themselves in folklore, fairy tales, dreams, or mandala painting, that are so removed from the ven of what is human that they are apparently not accessible in structuring our maps of ourself and our psyche? And that for me was the contact with what I call, and I didn't call it this, Rudolf Otto called it this, and this term influenced Jung, Otto preceded Jung, it is the wholly other. And if there is an archetype of the wholly other, then this is it. But perhaps the wholly other transcends the archetypes. This may explain to some degree Jung's interest in Gnosticism, especially the Valentinian school of Gnosticism, which holds, that there is a higher and hidden Father, all God, who is outside the machinery of cosmic fate. And it seemed to me that in those extremely profound DMT flashes, I was actually witnessing a domain outside the machinery of the archetypes, which is, for us as moderns, that's what the machinery of fate is. It's not zodiacal machinery. It's hardwiring in our psychology and our genes that gives us our fate. Well, so having said that, I've not only made the survey, but also brought us to, by ending with DMT, the subject matter of this quest. And I want to make it clear, I speak about the power of the psychedelic experience because I think people should be informed of their birthright. And I feel very antsy around the notion that someone might go from birth to the grave without ever having a psychedelic experience. It makes me as antsy as the notion that somebody might go from birth to the grave without having a sexual experience. It's a strange kind of protective denial or a kind of expression of fear. This is our birthright. This is part of what it means to be human. These altered states of consciousness, I think, are pretty much scripted into the existence of women because most of them will give birth, which is an organically scripted psychedelic experience from which there is no escape unless, of course, you go for the drug knockout, the spinal, and then you miss everything. But biologically, physiologically, women are set up for this experience. Men are not. It's possible to build such barriers against overwhelmment that it never happens in your whole life. And I believe that if we psychologically analyze the effects of these psychedelics, what they do is they dissolve boundaries. That's all. I mean, if you interview 10,000 people who've had the psychedelic trip, each one has their own hierophany, their own hieroskamos that unfolded for them. But the sum total of it is boundaries dissolve. And then whatever's on the other side of your boundary comes flooding in to claim you and to reshape and remake your psyche. Well, I see the entire illness of our civilization as an ego-inflationary illness. We have gone so sick with ego that we are literally murdering the planet rather than confronting the consequences of our psychic imbalance. And the psychedelics act to redress this. They are almost an inoculation against the ego. And I see the ego as a phenomenon arising in historical time, or rather, actually, history is caused by the ego. But the ego is a component of the psyche that arose in the post-archaic phase, in the post-psychedelic phase. It's entirely a modern invention. It's less than 15,000 years old. And the assumptions of the ego are the source of our neurosis, our disequilibrium. Why did the ego arise? It arose because of the climatologically enforced abandonment of these psychedelic religions of the archaic period. In other words, here is the scenario as I see it. Primates, even primitive, even non-advanced primates like squirrel monkeys, howler monkeys, these kinds of primates, all have male dominance hierarchies. The whole thing with primates is about male dominance. But a lot of things about human beings mark us as the most unique member of the primate group. Obviously, we look different from any other monkeys. Even the stranger monkeys look more like the normal monkeys than we look like them, or they look like us. Our upright posture. The other thing about us is our suppressed estrus cycle. We cannot tell at a glance whether a woman is in heat or not. And yet, obviously, that had a tremendous shaping force on the social psychology of the primates. I believe that everything about us that is noble and worth saving occurs against the grain. That if we had followed the grain, we would still be competing with jackals for the carcasses left by lions of large game kills on the plains of Africa.
Hi there, I'm Jim Brayshaw. I've authored a 4-volume Imagine No Satan book series. The first volume of that is Satan, Christianity's Other God. And in that very title, there's been some controversy in people's minds saying, could this person, this writer, this theme be considering that there's a second God if we believe in a supernatural Satan? Well, we're going to take 4 minutes and 45 seconds of your valuable time to take a look at this quickly and see. Let me just ask you this. If I had this particular unusually angry-looking wooden mask made in Africa, and I came into my studio, I don't bring a lot of props into the studio, but I happen to bring this one in, and all of a sudden, let's say, stuff started falling off the walls. Or let's say, all of a sudden, lightning struck when I had this in my hands. Or let's say, I tripped and fell, and I injured myself severely in my studio, and this mask was here. This wooden carving, often thought to be a carving of maybe an ancient evil entity, or often thought to be the carving of a god that once existed, or maybe still does exist, and has some potential or power to disrupt the flow of human activities, either in the physical realm, the spiritual realm, the emotional realm. And this now becomes not just a mask, not just a wooden mask that has zero power, but it now becomes something with power. I can now imbue it by my thoughts with the power to change my world. It has an effect on me. Can it cause sickness? Can it change the weather? Can it cause the lights to flicker? I've now given it supernatural entities. This is a similar thing that we have done with the Satan of religion. We've turned that Satan into a god by ascribing to it powers that belong to the supposed one God of the universe. It's a really interesting history because when the Hebrew people went to Babylon, which was overtaken by Persia in the 6th century BC, they began to assimilate. The Hebrew people began to adopt the ideas of the Persians. There was an ancient philosopher / spiritual leader named Zoroaster, and he began to articulate to the masses that there's not only a good God, but there's an evil entity, and I had a vision of this evil entity, and it brings evil on humans and on the world all the time. Let's not blame the good God for evil. Let's blame this evil God that Zoroaster, in Zoroastrianism, had an idea existed. And it's pretty interesting when we start to follow the Persians who took over from the Babylonians and their ecumenical form of religion. They really believed it was okay to practice any religion you wanted, but they really had a strong belief that there was more than one God in existence, but there was two, a second evil entity. Now, the Hebrew people were there in Persia. They were there because they were sent into exile, and they were there for many, many generations. But when they were there, they began to assimilate, to adapt to the Persian culture and adopt the Persian philosophical and spiritual ideas. Therein lies the issue. This is when the Hebrew people were so closely tied to a secondary evil entity, godlike being, as being part of the universe, that they began to build and construct theories and concepts and teachings around it. Now, we know this. There is supposed to be, according to Scripture, only one God. I need to go over a couple passages with you so that we can identify what this God of the universe says about himself or itself or herself. Call it what you like. That's not the dispute. We're not disputing if this God exists. We want to question, does the Bible say there's no other God, which means there's no other Satan? Which means Satan isn't real and doesn't exist, because that would make Satan a second God. Here we have in Exodus 9, "For I will at this time send all my plagues upon your heart and upon your servants and upon your people, that they might know that there is none like me in all the earth." Okay, right there's a God saying, I'm the one that sends everything evil, all the plagues, so that you guys know there's no other entity that can do that. Here he says again in Deuteronomy 4:28, "And there you shall serve other gods, the work of men's hands, wood and stone, which cannot see, hear, or eat or smell." So there, the one God of the universe who says there's no other gods is saying, you're going to go and serve other gods that don't exist. They can't eat, smell, or hear. Here he goes on in verse 33 of section 4, chapter 4, by finishing and saying, "Or has God gone forth to take himself a nation from the midst of a nation by trials, signs, and wonders, and war, and by a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and by great terrors, according to all Jehovah your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? To you it was revealed that you might know that Jehovah is God, and no one else is beside him." And in Deuteronomy 4 again, he says, "Know today and turn back your heart to it. Jehovah is God. in the heavens and above earth. There is no other, so no other God exists. We found when the Hebrew people were in their exile, Isaiah was also recognizing assimilation occurred. And we find in the passage of Isaiah 45.
What the hell? Two chocolate bars out here in the kitchen too, fuck. Just worried to put mine away.
That God says through the prophet Isaiah, he says, remember the former things of old, he says, for I am God, there is none else, there is none like me. God says this all over the place, and then God goes on to say, I make peace and I create evil. I, Yahweh, do all these things. The theme was always, don't blame what the Creator God does on some made-up man-created evil entity that's supposedly like God. Because what are the things that God can do, and what are the things Satan can do? If God says there's none like him in all the earth, yet there's another entity in this universe that can do things like God, then God becomes a liar. And we can't have that as the reality of this ancient faith that believes there's a one God. The true monotheism says there's no other gods, which includes no supernatural Satan. Here's some of the things God can do, but also things that are said Satan can do. God can do miracles and give thoughts to people. So can Satan supposedly give miracles and implant evil thoughts in people. God can appear in various forms. So can Satan appear in various forms, such as a serpent. God can fill a person's spirit. God can kill. God can control the weather and place diseases on man. All these things have also been said about Satan. God can remove diseases from man and dispatch angels. Well, Satan's been said to remove disease from man as well at times and dispatch demons. God can test man and hear our prayers and raise up leaders. We know this right now. There's many leaders in the world who have been said to be put into power by Satan. We know that God has tests for man, and we know Satan is supposed to have tested man. And we know God can bring evil. We found that in Amos 3 verse 6 in one of my other videos, that has their evil not come upon this city, and I, God, has done it. And we know that God can move between two worlds, and we are also told Satan can move between two worlds. Let me tell you this. There is only one God identified in the Bible. If there's a supernatural entity known as Satan that can do all these things that Satan supposedly can do, then folks, we're believing in two gods. I was a believer in two gods at one time until I learned that there is no supernatural Satan. And I hope you can either email me, check out my website, imaginalsatan.com, or pick up one of the volumes in the Imaginal Satan series so that you too can learn how liberating it is when we remove the false idea that Satan is real, which thus makes him a god, and in competition with the one God of the universe. Thanks for your time. I'm Jim Bray. Hi there, I'm Jim Brayshaw, and thanks for taking 4 minutes of your time to talk about evil today. It's such an important topic. Evil exists all around us. We've been taught since we are little people, most of us, that evil comes from a supernatural cosmic entity that really has divine powers in many ways and is a lot like God, but can bring this evil onto humanity and make you and I do evil things and influence our thoughts to make evil choices and decisions. But is this real? Is this possible that there's a supernatural being that can do this to us? Or could evil come from a different source? Well, the answer is evil can come from a different source. And in fact, it does. We learn by looking carefully at some of the way the words and phrases are put together in the Bible that evil comes from two sources. One being myself, a human being. The condition of man is often bringing evil into the world and upon other men. And we also find that evil is brought by the Creator, Yahweh, God, at times upon people as well. If we look at a couple unique passages, very first passage about evil. Where did evil begin? Well, if you remember the Garden of Eden story, perhaps some of you recall it, we find that Adam and Eve, that's what they're called biblically, were in the garden, and then there was some stuff put in the garden. And who put the trees in there? Well, the tree of the knowledge of good and what was put in the garden by whom? If we look at that passage, we know there was a tree of life placed in the garden, and then God, the Creator, put the tree of knowledge of good and evil. He placed evil in the pathway of the human being, that the condition of the human was always there so that the evil inclination, a good inclination exists and an evil inclination exists, and the human could always have a choice whether to do good or whether to choose evil. So it wasn't coming from a supernatural entity. You can look at my other video or pick up a PDF copy by emailing me of Satan, Christianity's Other God, where I disclose a whole bunch of info on what the serpent in the garden was. And please check out my other video on that. But we also know this. In Isaiah is a prophet, and we can dispute whose words these are, but we find that the Hebrew people were trapped in an environment where there were lots of things going on that weren't very pleasant. Let's call them evil. And they were blaming these evil things on other gods, on supernatural and evil entities they thought existed, because they began to adopt some of the views of the culture around them. So Isaiah needs to redirect them and say, listen, you guys, well, let me
Maybe
read
like
to you.
not like a parent,
Isaiah 45:47.
like a
For
girl.
Jacob my servant's sake, and Israel mine elect, I have been called them by thy name, I've surnamed you, though you have not known me. I'm the Lord, Yahweh, there's none else. There's no God beside me. See, they were thinking of other gods doing the evil. So Isaiah said, no, there's no other God beside me. I girded you, though you did not know me, that you may know from the rising of the sun and from the west that there is none beside me. I am Yahweh, I'm the Lord, there's none else. He continued to reassert that he is the only supernatural entity in existence. And that what happens with evil, it doesn't come from all the other supernatural beings that supposedly existed. He says it clearly, because it's me. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, I, Yahweh, I, God, do all these things. Blame me for it, he said. It's not you. It's not supernatural entities that don't exist. We also find in Amos another claim. Who claims to bring evil on a city? In Amos 3, I believe it's verse 6, shall there be evil in a city? And God hath not done it? Simple question. We find in Job 2, shall man accept good at the hand of God and not evil? Well, we know evil's coming from the hand of God then. And we're finding all throughout Scripture that man is this Satan, this adversary, where evil is created. We also find the passage in James that talks about evil. It says in James 1:14, but every man is tempted when he's drawn away by Satan, a supernatural entity. No, by his own lusts and enticed. Then when lust has conceived, it brings forth death and sin, and then death is the result. We also know the Messiah, Jesus, Yeshua, made a very clear statement. He says, evil comes from the heart of man. Out of hearts man proceeds adulteries, fornications, lasciviousness, lust. All evil proceeds from the heart of man. So if you want to find out more about evil and understand that it's not a supernatural entity where evil is originating from, but it's really us, the human being, where evil comes from inside us, and then we spray it on those around us in various ways all throughout history. Please get in touch with me at jrbrayshaw@shaw.ca. I'll send you a PDF copy of one of these Imagine No Satan series books. And go to my website, imaginosatan.com, where you can learn a little bit more as well and also contact me. Thanks for spending 4 minutes of your time. It's great to have you along.
Fuck's sakes.
I just sketched out in my mind, I want to get to 10 grand. So I need 10 businesses or 10,
Hi there, I'm Jim Brayshaw. Thanks for taking 4 minutes of your time to talk about a very important little piece of information Paul shared with us. So we're going to do this as quickly as we can because it's not that difficult when we consider some things about this angel who transforms itself into an angel of light. Let me just read that passage from 2 Corinthians 11:13-15. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it's no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. We need to know a few things if we're going to understand who this Satan is, what this light is, and what an angel is in this passage, because Paul had an understanding that was unique to his day, way different than our day. Actually, let's just flip that on its head. Our understanding today is typically unique. It's not at all connected to the original understanding Paul would have had, nor his audience would have had. Consider this. Paul was a Hebrew believer in Messiah. His job was to preach what he understood as truth to the people in the Corinthian area and around the entire ancient Near East area in Jerusalem and beyond. And so Paul would have his frame of reference from what? From the Old Testament, from the Hebrew Scriptures. And we can find what light is, first of all, as a metaphor if we look into a passage in Isaiah. In Isaiah 8:20, we're told, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because what? There's no light in them. And that is referring to no truth in the people, the men, the false religious leaders and teachers who would teach in accord with their own beliefs and doctrines. And they would often transform themselves into ministers of righteousness. That means they came across with the appearance that what they were teaching was truth and righteousness, and they would draw people in. Consider this. This environment was profoundly steeped in pagan religions, in skewed biblical versions of truth, and in religious leaders who were pursuing power. And if we know what a religious leader was in that day, we look at the word angel and find out a little more, connecting that word again to the ancient understanding that we find in the Qumran cults, the Essene texts, the Dead Sea Scrolls. We know this, that an angel, an angelos in the Greek, which is malach in the Hebrew, in so many references in the Bible, is referring to a human man, and often a priest or a religious leader of the day. Because there was this false religious system that was always percolating in this unusual Corinthian environment filled with pagan cults and false religious systems, Paul needed to speak against it and let the people know that those ministers of righteousness were really human messengers, angelos, transforming themselves as angels of light. But that leaves us with the word Satan and Satan and Satanas. How does that word fit in here? Well, we see it with a capital S in this New Testament passage. In almost all Bibles, it's written with a capital S in the English. The word Satanas stems from the Hebrew word Satan. And again, that word in the mind and hearer of the audience of the day was referring only to a human adversary. In fact, when it was speaking of somebody teaching false doctrine, a minister of righteousness transforming himself into a messenger of false teaching, into a messenger of true teaching when their teaching was false, Paul knew that the Satanas he was speaking about was a human being, an adversary. It was referring to a man. It can refer to other elements, and you'll see this in other videos, such as a sickness or malady, a false teacher or false teaching, another human opposing a human, and in fact, sometimes God can be the adversary to the humans. So all in all, what do we see here? How would we reread this passage if we were to look at it through the lens that Paul was sitting in when he spoke these words, if in fact it was him? We could see it such as this. Those who are transformed into messengers of light and ministers of righteousness are the deceptive men who teach the unsuspecting laity their versions of the truth. Quite simply, for no wonder there are deceiving false apostles, because even the religious adversary gives off the appearance of teaching truth, and so do the followers of that false teacher become alleged ministers of righteousness. So we know this passage isn't about an angel, supernatural messenger, a supernatural being like Satan who can transform himself into some brilliant beam that deceives people and causes them to be blind to the truth. I'm Jim Brayshaw. Thanks for taking time to chat about this topic. Email me if you have any questions, and take a look at ImagineNoSatan.com if you're interested in getting a Hi there, I'm James Brayshaw. I'm so glad you're going to take a few minutes of your time to go over a very important topic about when Jesus cast the demons into swine. I had a request from a YouTube viewer the other day to actually go through this. So we're going to do it in 4 minutes or less because, folks, your time is that important, and I want to make sure we just get the main points out so we're not rambling on and on. We can refer you to the Imagine No Satan series. I'll put a link up where you can read the entire chapter on this topic. But some things we need to know is this. That particular event occurred when there was a lot of Aramaic cultural ideas and beliefs and understandings going on. Yeshua, Jesus Christ, the apostles, the early Hebrew believers were functioning in an Aramaic/Hebraic society. So we find that it was not a Greek culture, which leads us to a next understanding of the word al, or the word for attack as we found it in the passageway. And we'll scroll the passage up after this video. But I want you to know that the word, according to Aramaic scholars, meant not to enter into, but to attack. When the demoniacs, the men in the cemetery, asked to go enter into this herd of swine, they were actually, if they could attack the herd of swine. And the word used in that passage, daimonitzomai, was a term that didn't mean somebody who's actually filled or inhabited by a demonic supernatural entity. It's a word that meant a person was struggling with an illness or a malady or some very severe situation. In fact, we find all throughout the biblical history and biblical text, demon and daimonion means a person might have an illness or a false belief or idea or a few other things which we're not covering today. We also find that there were lunatics in the period who were often cast away. They were ostracized as pariahs, and they were asked to go stay in the cemeteries and catacombs. That was the perfect setup for the exorcists who would travel around. There were men of renown who would travel from town to town. They would go out to catacombs and cemeteries, and they would try to exorcise the demonians, the demons, the demoniacs in the cemetery. And these men and women in the cemetery, they felt that torment of these men when they come and ply their trade of exorcism on them. But when the Messiah was traveling with his men, it's interesting, he traveled there at noon, the text says. And these men in the cemetery were afraid because he said, why are you here to torment us before the time? For them, the time meant after supper. But here he was there at lunch. This was not a reference to an eternal judgment of a supernatural spirit being. So, the 10th Roman Regiment, we need to know about that as well if we're going to understand that passage. There was a marching band of Roman soldiers. The 10th Roman Regiment, they marched in the area to patrol it. They marched under the banner of the boar, or the swine. So, was it possible that that was the group that was driven into the sea or attacked by the people in the cemetery after they were liberated from their illness by the Messiah? So it's the next point we're going to look at is driving someone into the sea is a euphemism for pushing back a military group. It doesn't necessarily mean that 2,000 pigs were seen cascading down a cliff 6 to 10 miles away, according to the geography, into the sea. Is it okay for the God of the universe coming as the Messiah, if that's who Jesus was, to kill a herd of swine? Well, he would have been punished as a criminal if he would have killed thousands of swine at his word. And it was very clear to everybody in the city that this man who caused this to happen needed to leave the area. Not because he was a swine killer, but because he was the one that liberated men who then attacked the Roman regiment, and repercussions were going to come upon the entire area by the Roman legion and the Roman military. Lastly, if you were a demon and you were requesting of the Messiah, hey, I'm in this living thing, you're going to cast me out, can I go inhabit another living thing? You would have to say no. The demons would have to receive a no from the Messiah. The Messiah doesn't honor the request of demons to go inhabit other living things. So I want you to look at this passage closely again through new eyes, and please get in touch with me if you have any questions. I can be contacted at jrbrayshaw@shaw.ca, or do look at the imaginalsatan.com website, where you're going to be able to see this entire chapter from Volume 3, Who's the Devil Jesus Knew, and it'll explain all of these points and more. Thanks for taking your 4 minutes. I'm James Brayshaw. Have a great day.
Matthew 8:28-34. And when Yeshua came to the other side into the country of the Gergesenes, there met him 2 who were devils, which is to say social outcasts, because of their radical behavior associated with their mental illness. They were seen coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Yeshua, Son of God? Have you come here to torment us early in the day? They asked this of him because other men of renown and traveling exorcists would often come to torment the mentally insane after dining with friends in the evening. And there was a good way off a Roman regiment called the 10th Legion. This well-known regiment marched under the banner of the boar. They were resting and taking nourishment. So the men who were struggling with their devils of mental illness asked Yeshua if he was going to send them away could they go attack the 10th Roman legion? Performing dramatic expressions was a usual way in their culture to show their loyalty to one such as Yeshua. Yeshua simply told them go, and when they were released to go, they went and attacked the Roman regiment. The fury with which they attacked the soldiers was amazing. It is said they drove them over a cliff into the sea, because the regenerated lunatics actually caused the Roman regiment to make haste and retreat from the area, as if they had been defeated by the band of madmen. We might say they were driven into the sea. Those who had been assigned to care for the regiment fled for fear that they might be attacked, and they went and told some people in the city what had gone on with the men who were called devils because of their mental illness.
Oh man, B-Dog, it's not fair.
What's wrong?
Well, I didn't get cast as the cute jock.
Battle against flesh and blood. Hi there, I'm James Brayshaw, and I want to ask for 2 or 3 minutes of your time just to talk about the wiles of the devil. It's an Ephesians 6 passage that's been popularized to speak about what is believed to be spiritual warfare. Now, this passage is not anything about spiritual warfare. It's about warfare against ideas, beliefs, original thought, and man's liberty to choose, because that is exactly what the passage tells us. The passage goes like this. And I'm going to tell you exactly what each of these terms means, so just stick with me. So it says, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you might be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, and against the spiritual wickedness in high places. So the terms there often are said to refer to supernatural elements related to a supernatural cosmic Satan, but the fact is that's not the case. Now, one quick note on wrestling against flesh and blood.
We had started the off with 3, and you had 1 in your
Imagine
bedroom.
for a second if
Now
all
we
the
have
women
none
in
on
the
the
world
fridge.
who are underpaid because of the wage disparity, where they are said to have gained only 79 to 83 cents on every dollar compared to their male counterparts, if they were to mount up and go take their clubs and battle against the flesh and blood males who are making more than them, would that be a battle against flesh and blood? Indeed it would, but their battle is not against the flesh and blood. What those individuals would need to do to get wage parity would be to battle against the system, the policies, the hierarchies, the patriarchies, the history of wage disparity. They're not battling against flesh and blood. So keep that in mind. We can't be battling against flesh and blood when we're talking about spiritual things in Ephesus. Because when Paul was in Ephesus, remember that he was very tuned into a broad array of diverse religious beliefs. There were all types of cultic activity going on, and these things were continually influencing the believers in the God of Israel. So the battle was not against the flesh and blood human. What did we wrestle against, though? It tells us it's against principalities. It's against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, and against spiritual wickedness in high places. Let me just give it to you real quick here, because we're running out of time. Principalities, quite simply, is the word arche, and it's translated as beginning or origin, the person or thing that commences, the first person or thing in a series, the leader. It's referring to a magistrate, a system of rulers, and the origin of the thought that goes with it. It's not referring to this supernatural entity we know as Satan. Next, we say we wrestle against what else? Oh, powers. Oh, that's an interesting one as well. The word powers is the word exousia. If we see exousia, we soon learn what exousia means, and it means the power of choice, or the liberty of doing as one pleases. Hey, hang on. So we're wrestling against human rulers. No, not their flesh and blood. Human rule. We're wrestling against the rules and traditions and beliefs and ideals of humans, and we're wrestling against our own power, our own liberty to choose, our own choice. All right, so we are also wrestling against the darkness of this world. Do know this, that this darkness is referring to the darkened sight of human man. It's not referring to a special cosmic force that's fighting and is known as the dark world. And we're wrestling against spiritual wickedness in high places. I downplayed the word places because if you look closely, it's added in the text, places. It doesn't belong there. What is this spiritual wickedness in high? Well, we're fighting against the darkened sight of the religious leaders and the governmental leaders and the political religious system in these places that are called high in Paul's day. All the pagan worship took place in what was known as the high places. They would worship on high or in high places their particular god or deity. So Paul knew the battle was against those things, and it was not against a human entity. We're not going to leave here without looking at another passage that points us in the same direction as we're going here today as a team. If we look at Titus chapter 3, verse 1, we find this, that Paul is talking to his buddy Titus. Titus is one of the teachers that was sent out by Paul to teach the good news of what the gospel was supposed to have spoken of. And he tells Titus, this is how I want you, Titus, to instruct these folks with their behavior. Can you put them in mind to be subject to principalities, to powers, and to obey magistrates? Do you believe that? We just read that our battle is against principalities and powers. But Paul tells us here to obey principalities and powers. Paul tells us here to put principalities and powers on a high level, esteem them. We're supposed to do as they say. So the long and short of it is principalities and powers are not cosmic entities. The devil's wiles are several things. And if we look closely through the whole book of Ephesians, we find exactly what the devil's wiles are. Paul tells the Ephesians, here's what they are. The devil is stealing instead of working. The devil is corrupt communication instead of edifying. The devil is bitterness. The devil is wrath. The devil is anger. The devil is clamor. And the devil is evil speaking. And the devil is malice. That are the devil. We find there's nothing about Paul's writing that says there's a supernatural cosmic Satan that is the devil who we're fighting against. So, if you have any questions, email me. Thank you for stopping in. Please check the ImagineNoSatan.com website or my Facebook page. And if you want a copy of this book, this is from volume 4 of the 4-volume Imagine No Satan series. This is it. Satan is finished. Feel free to email me. That's probably best. And I'll send you out a PDF version of that so you can read through all of this yourself. So I'm James Brayshaw. Thanks for taking time to have a listen with me. I hope that we can meet up again, and I appreciate your moments today. And I'm so glad you made her back here to the Imagine No Satan site to just talk a bit about who and what Satan is. Today I want to just point out one simple point that really begins to lead us in the direction of asking more questions, at least about if Satan is real or not. I contest in my 4-volume Imagine No Satan series that Satan is not real. He's been a fabricated entity that came through a lot of Persian influence from the 6th century BCE. And today I want to mention a very important story. Perhaps you're familiar with the story of David when he was instructed to not count the tribes of Israel, to determine a number. The Creator, God, Yahweh, whatever. Hi there, I'm Jim Brayshaw, and today we're going to talk...
No.
Hi there, I'm James Brayshaw, and I'm so glad you made her back here to the... I contest in my 4-volume Imagine No Satan series that Satan is not real. He's been a fabricated entity that came through a lot of Persian influence from the 6th century BCE. And today I want to mention a very important story. Perhaps you're familiar with the story of David when he was instructed to not count the tribes of Israel, to determine a number. The Creator, God, Yahweh, whatever we're calling him right now for this point, doesn't really matter. The point is he was told by his boss not to number the tribes of Israel. Yet he went ahead and did it. And here's what actually is said in 1 Chronicles about that very story. It says, and Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. Right there in 1 Chronicles 21 verse 1 is what we see happening to David because he counted the tribes of Israel against God's wishes. So it tells us there that Satan stood up and provoked him. That's interesting because we find here in this other passage that is the very mirror passage. What happened is the chronicler wrote a story chronicling a lot of the events and activities of the Israelite nation. But this was always also written down in 2 Samuel 24, verse 1. Remember, we just saw, and Satan provoked David. Here we find it written differently. And again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against David, and he moved David against them. So now, in this passage, it's the Lord who did it. How is it possible that in one passage, Satan is the one that's provoking David, and in another passage, it's God that's the one provoking David? Some will contend with this argument, or this point, and suggest that God is telling Satan to go provoke David. But the fact is, and we know that a Satan, is just an adversary. It's not a cosmic, supernatural, phenomenological entity that has the power to behave like God in many ways and inflict evil upon humans. Any adversarial force that opposes man, God, brings sickness, disease, pestilence, calamity, can be a Satan. And that's why we find God is Satan in this case. And I say that quite cheerfully, because what that reveals then is that there's no real literal little God who's in opposition to the great God and there to inflict harm, damage, destruction on you, me, and our loved ones. So, Satan's not real? Please learn more about this from the ImaginalSatan.com website, or feel free to email me for a free copy of Volume 1 of the Imaginal Satan series, or you... Hi there, I'm James Brayshaw, and I want to take some time to look at a number of reasons why Satan isn't real. Let's begin by considering the actual word itself, Satan. What is a Satan? Who is a Satan? What can Satan do? Where does the word come from? What does it mean? To many of us, it's a name.